All right. Let's get on this call here. Fucking get on it. Videos. X. All right. Join the video. How is
There's
it going?
Chloe.
Oh god, do I need to put a background up?
Oh yeah, I have a question. Chloe, you will be muted when you come in. You'll have to unmute yourself, or I guess Alan could do it.
Oh, yeah. Do I need to put a background on too?
You can do whatever you want. It's totally up to you.
I mean, I already have the best background, so.
Oh, actually, I got a really good background I can go grab. Hold on. One sec. The enlightened anarcho-Bidenist.
Well, I can hear you solid. Can you hear her good? Okay.
Yeah. Nice to finally meet you, by the way. I know we've discussed on Facebook many times.
Yeah, same here. I know I get kind of heated, but I'm very passionate.
Yes, please.
No.
I don't know what Mike's picking you up.
Wait, why is there a third person here?
Jesus.
There we go.
Trump,
That's a good background, Chloe.
and there's
You can see, you can't hardly see it, but it says no gods, no malarkey.
Steven, can you hear everybody okay?
Yeah, everyone's coming through pretty good.
Cool. You're coming through solid as well.
Hey, Steven.
Hey, what's up, man?
How much? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Steven, are you on the Facebook page for Nebraska Booze and Babel?
No, I'm not.
If you want to jump on there, I mean, if you want your friends to see this, you can share the stream from there when we go live in a little bit. So we will officially go live at 5:30. So if you need to go get drinks or whatever,
I've got my water.
it
I
is
may need
Nebraska
to-
Booze and Babel, so you should have a beer or something.
I'm
I
actually
got
gonna go get another
Kraken.
glass of water. I will be right back.
Okay.
It's my morning, so I'm having some Jägermeister and Monster.
All right.
Yeah. I'm gonna like this libertarian.
Ooh, I might have put too much Kraken in that.
You can never put too much Kraken in it.
What's the Facebook group called again?
It's called Nebraska Booze and Babel. BABEL is how you spell
I
it.
got it in my history. Oh, I liked it. That's why.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so you should.
Thank
if
you
you
for
follow
liking
us, then you'll see the thing go live.
Alright.
Thanks for liking it. We appreciate that.
I'm probably gonna get a few more people. I have a lot of friends who are interested in this.
Everything's going solid on there? Sweet. Look good. Like,
Man, I don't have a fancy background like you guys.
you're using Zoom, so if you go
It's
to
all good. The libertarians don't have as much money as us. It's understandable. But if you guys could actually get 5% of the vote in one of the national elections, you could.
Oh,
This might be the election.
that's what I'm saying.
That's what I thought last time.
I think that's good. So you'll have to go get another string key for the real one. So we just tested on our Facebook page. Something cool Facebook has just done is, like in the last couple of weeks, has allowed you to do a test stream without it actually going out live, because we used to have to just do a live test.
Mhm.
So that everything looks good on there.
What's the phone
All right, one
number
sec.
in
Hey-
there? Did you call them
Because-
separate?
Hey, Sorceress
or-
Wizard, are you here?
Hosting it has to have a Zoom call in there. So I was like, well, we don't need the whole room to be on there, so we just put the phone number on
Okay.
that way.
I'm gonna put it on speaker view once we get started, so that one should never really show up.
Okay.
So while we're doing it, whoever's speaking will take over the whole screen on our main stream. So try not to talk over each other, because if you talk, it'll bring you up.
Hold on. Let me.
Sounds fair enough.
All right. Cool.
So don't pull a Trump.
Don't do a Trump.
You're fake
No, we-
news.
I'm gonna try to pull a Kanye. I'm gonna let you finish, but You know, Joe Jorgensen was the best presidential candidate of this year.
That's debatable.
Gonna have to bite my tongue here.
You won't later. Save
I mean,
it for later.
it's between Trump or Joe Jorgensen, so I don't know.
Secret alliance.
Nah.
Oh,
I'm
okay,
good.
okay. Time out. I want to just take a minute. That we have to do a little bit of preemptive mocking.
I love that idea.
Nacho Dragon in my chat just said voting makes you a slave. And I want to come out here and say, listen, if you don't vote, it is illegal to have sex.
Absolutely. Only Chad's vote.
I wasn't going to vote, but I'm totally voting now. I'll put
Like-
my Mickey Mouse in, but I'm making a vote.
I want that to be known. Yeah, no, absolutely. If you don't vote, it is illegal to have sex. You can be arrested, and you will go to jail.
I can go with that.
I think the Libertarian Party also.
Wait a minute, my
works
wife
on-
does not vote.
Shit.
You're
Gotta.
saying they're getting arrested, though, right?
Well, I mean, she'll be in jail, so.
There's no marriage vows if the spouse is in jail.
Well, I mean, you've seen the Orange is the New Black show. You know how it goes.
Yeah. What is it?
Just cute
The
blonde. She'll be just like the main person in there, right?
what? Does she also have a secret drug running best friend?
You know what? If she did, she's hiding the money really well. Speaking of Orange is the New Black, I just started watching a show called Wentworth. It's like the Australian version of what Orange is the New Black would be.
Interesting.
Way different, though.
I've been watching The Expanse, and then
Oh, it's a great show.
yeah, oh my god, I love it. And then Amy have been watching Man in the High Castle, and I will tell you, it's so good. It's so trippy. I'm like we get to something, and I'm like, what, how? Fucking explain this shit.
Yeah, Wentworth is kind of like Orange is the New Black, but it takes place in Australia. And there's like a little kid in the jail with one of the ladies. It's like I Google it instantly. I'm like, this horse shit. Apparently in Australia, like they're more about rehabilitation than they are about punishment.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you have a child under the age of school age, they will put you in a section of the jail where the child stays with you.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, that's weird.
That's actually most of the like first world countries do that. We are an outlier in that situation.
That's crazy.
Well, because it leads to far better outcomes.
Yeah, I mean, it must if they're doing it and it's being successful. But then there's like a riot and little kids running around in a riot, and you're like, oh, that's a good reason not to have a child in a jail.
I don't know, man. I mean, my little fuck trophy could stab some ankles.
Just slice an Achilles
Yeah,
tendon.
yeah. You've been training for that adult-on-adult combat, and you got Chucky running around going for the Achilles tendon.
Oh my god. But yeah, no, it's absolutely insane. Like some of the data on this is just crazy because it's like there's like actual so what is it, Sweden or something, where they're actually taking like murderers and stuff, and they're just like basically living in rehabilitative apartments. They have almost the only thing that they're basically like in these jails for, like the only thing that they're like limited to, quote unquote, is seeing friends and family. Like they still have.
So they're essentially, if you're murder somebody but you had no home, you would be awarding yourself a place to live.
Yeah,
I
mean,
I
the
don't think
message
it's
I'm getting here is if I want to go kill somebody, do it over in Europe for a comfier prison experience.
like, so I don't know the whole details on it. I do
Yeah.
know, I think that there's certain situations with some of these people where they're like, okay, if you actually are a legitimate danger to society, we're going to put you in a less, or like a more restrictive conditioning and stuff, where it's like, okay, you could put like, or if it's like you committed a crime of passion, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like we're going to put you in a rehabilitative situation and try and address this in a rehabilitative manner. Like they're much better at determining and sussing out who is and is not capable
Most
of being
other countries
rehabilitated.
don't have jails for profit, so
Exactly.
we're America. We got to make a business out of everything.
Oh, I know.
Hell yeah. We all want to drive a Tesla.
No, I'll take
No.
the.
Bear, I
electric
am.
Hummer.
I used to say I want to drive a Hummer because I don't care about the environment, but now they make electric Hummers.
Holy shit! That
1,000
fucking
horsepower and it
I
goes
know.
0 to 60 in under 3 seconds.
that
I
Hummer
will
looks
take that
fucking
electric Hummer.
badass. Oh my
That looks
god.
badass as hell.
I just want the self-driving car.
Yeah. Even the new Cadillacs are self-driving.
See, I'd be
No.
fine with the truck back part because I just want to be able to buy a fridge from Nebraska Furniture Mart and not have to call somebody.
Not have to borrow my truck.
I mean, you, my brother, another friend, my stepdad. Like, I feel bad when I have to ask, but I don't have any other choice.
That's why I never bought a truck. You become that person.
Correct.
I had a truck for a few years, and it was just, oh my god.
I pretty much have got to the point where I'm like, well, you can use the truck. You're coming to get it. You're driving it. And you're going to put gas in and you come back.
Let's see here. I went to check.
All right.
Yeah, I've had an exciting morning. Some guy on a motorcycle ate shit outside my
Ooh.
house. He was doing wheelies, trying to be an annoying asshole.
So he deserves it.
Yeah, didn't feel bad for him. He walked off.
I'm a motorcycle rider, and so is our producer here, and I don't feel bad for people who do stuff like that.
If you want to do it in like parking lots or out in a dirt track, by all means. But if you're doing it on a main street because you want to be loud and obnoxious, karma's gonna get you.
Yep, I agree with you 100%.
Mm-hmm.
What do I do with it?
Oh man, you popping a cigar?
Oh yeah, dude. That's how Bosom Babble rolls, man.
So okay, I just want to
One
double
sec.
check this
I
because
gotta get a cigar.
I need to make sure I let my girlfriend know I'm not blocking you.
That actually works.
You're not what?
Oh, someone in my chat
Oh.
thinks I'm blocking out, and I'm not blocking. Oh, you know what? Hold on. I need to get my chat on screen.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah, I'm on top where I'm supposed to
You
be.
could leave it like that if you want. We don't have to go speaker. You could leave it like that.
I'd just leave it like that. Yeah.
Does it highlight who's speaking? Yeah, now that we move that out here, the Wi-Fi connection's much better.
All right, congratulations, chat. You're now on screen.
I took my phone off the Wi-Fi too. I don't know that it was doing much to it, but
It shouldn't have been, but you never know. Oh, I see a dogger. Stephen is a friend of my cousin Mitchell's. Mitchell is a cousin of mine, lives in Florida, so I'm going to guess Stephen lives down there too. But he might not. He
Actually,
might
let me do this. I'm gonna hide.
I know he does do overnights,
this
so
here.
that's why he's like, this is my morning.
well, he said it's morning for him.
Because he works overnights.
Oh,
Or second, something like that. Stephen, you live down in Florida?
Wait, why am I doing all this? Hold on.
Oh, he might not be able to hear me.
do you live
Stephen,
in
do you live
Florida,
in
Steven?
Florida?
I live in Portland, Oregon.
No, we're going over
Oregon,
here.
okay.
Ah, there we are.
How do you know Mitchell?
Oh,
We were stationed at Texas together in the military.
Oh, okay.
how's Portland been for you lately? Like the last 100-something days? Going pretty well. You like
I hate that shit.
Then vote Trump.
Nah, man. See, so here's my backstory. I grew up Democrat in a Democratic household. When I went in the military, I became Republican. And then when I was a free man again, between Hillary and Trump, it was a pretty easy decision for Trump. But I mean, I gave him 4 years to make some shit that would sell me over, and his stance on the Second Amendment isn't very impressive for me. Let's take the guns first and do the courts later. I can't support that.
Yeah, Trump has done so much to take away the 2A.
So between him and Biden, it's the lesser of two evils for who wants to take away your guns. It's more of like, do you want to rip the Band-Aid off slow, or do you want to do it fast? And I'm enjoying a Gurkha cigar.
1 second here.
Gurkha cigar, all right. So yeah, so a normal show.
Hey.
We usually bring it in. We say,
I
hey, this is
am
our booze
on
of the
my
week,
call.
and we talk about whatever alcohol we have that night. And then we talk about what cigars we're going to pair with that.
I
And then we talk about
have
different
the
topics.
shrimp
So you probably
marinating.
really enjoy the show, actually.
I had to go with a different brand of
Become
shrimp
a
because the
Heck
stuff
yeah.
we normally get they just didn't have. So I hope they're
today
okay, but they're
I
marinating
will
right now.
bring us
But I
in.
figured we'd do the pasta.
I'll talk about what we're doing. I'm going to preface the show with
Yeah. Yep.
everybody on the show today is going to defend
All right. I
a
love you.
candidate for that vote.
All right.
That doesn't necessarily mean
Bye.
they're actually voting that way. That way there's no like, oh, I hate this guy. I'm going to go hunt him down on Facebook and make his life hell. That
Bring
kind
it,
of stupid
man.
stuff. Yeah.
My Facebook's a meme
Everybody
page.
here is pretty strong about that stuff. So I'm not worried about it, but, whatever. we won't tolerate anybody in Slack or or in the chat or on the phones being dicks. So that'll just get kicked right away.
Okay.
And then I have a list of things to ask as we go. You're obviously welcome to ask the other people questions and respond. Give everybody time to talk back.
Cool.
Hopefully we get chat interaction and we get phone calls.
Oh, speaking of that, hey, chat, if you want to call in, type !, call in, and you can get the phone number.
I don't have a chat. I'm a. No, I got a toddler. I can tell. Hey, Edward, if you want to call in, just tug on my pants.
We'll get the dog and make a phone call.
Yeah, I might have dogs barking in, but. Are we gonna do like introductions and everything and all that fun stuff?
Yeah, I will.
Cool.
I'll talk about the show real quick, then I'll say what we're doing, and I'll say I'm gonna let each person introduce themselves, talk about, like kind of like hey, he did real quick. They're like, oh, I joined the military and I did this, and then I did this, and now I'm this way. So he's getting ready on the starting soon thing right now. So
Excellent.
you guys should see it come up on the Facebook page when he goes. Are you going live now, Alan? Okay. Yes, definitely. We should go live. So it'll go live on Facebook right now, and we have a starting soon
Oh no.
video that pops up.
What? No, I can't record this.
We'll have it recorded.
Twitch is recording it.
Okay.
I set my Twitch to record on my stream, so.
Oh, perfect. I will start a watch party in a little bit too. Yeah, special edition election talks. That's alright. If you already can't do it, don't do it.
Should be live right now.
I'm waiting.
Oh, I do want to go say I am pretty edgy, so.
Oh. I'm moving a notion to change your name to Pizza Cutters. All edge and no point.
Special
I've thought
edition
about that.
Election talks.
I'm a very easygoing guy. I'm not going to go on the attack with any of you. I like to do facts and logic. So, just know if you get catty, I'm going to get catty back.
Is this the facts don't care about your feelings? Or the feelings
little
don't
bit
care
of
about
both.
your facts?
Yep.
I'm-
Facts don't care about feelings.
Boom.
God,
Back to facts.
the fact that he the fact that Ben Shapiro made that tweet and he's like, it's the best thing ever.
Dude, that guy is like hot or cold. Like sometimes I look at his tweets, I'm like, all right, he's making a little bit of sense, and then other times he's talking about WAP and his wife's dry ass pussy, and I'm like,
Oh my God, that
what?
video.
We were going down haha land. You took a left on topical. What happened, bud?
Did you see the video that someone made
That's
of like
showing up
him
on my-
photoshopped
Oh, you're
into
not
the
live.
music video
Oh,
over
yeah,
their
he's singing it
faces and
with
he's
his,
singing it?
Bring a bucket and a mop.
For that wet
But
ass
that's P word. Jesus, I'm like, I honestly can't believe
Alright.
that, like, uh, holy shit.
We're all like talking on that. Mute the desktop audio. There we go. While they're singing wet ass pussy.
Wet-ass P-word.
We are singing Ben Shapiro singing wet ass.
Whores
P-word.
in this house. There's some whores in this house. Whores in this house. There's some whores in this house.
All right, so right now, if you guys go to the Cruise and Babel Facebook page, the stream will just say starting soon, and it is live, so you can share that out if you want to.
Oh, my chat wants to know who you think will win
Who will win what?
the
The election?
The election?
I mean, is there any question?
Not America.
That's that might be the most accurate answer.
I don't know who's gonna win, but everyone's gonna lose.
All right, here we go.
Where's my reserved seating sign?
You want to mute them until I'm done talking?
I won't be silenced.
No First Amendment here.
Because they'll do stuff like that.
I'll mute myself.
It's fine.
We're throwing out symbols. I'm gonna do Wu-Tang.
There you go. Leave that on. Now do the audio. Desktop audio. Okay. Now hit that one. All right. Welcome into Nebraska Booze and Babel. My name is Chris. I'm your host for the night, and we are doing a special edition episode tonight, guys. We're gonna be talking about some election stuff. We want you guys to go out and vote. You'll see on the stream here, we have a panel of 3 individuals who are representing the 3 different major options. So they're throwing up some symbols here. A bit of a disclaimer here at the beginning. While each person here is essentially arguing the case to vote for their specific candidate, Joe Biden, Joe Jorgensen, and Donald Trump, they're doing so for this medium, and this medium is entertainment. While the intention is to educate and discuss this, we are here for entertainment purposes and to just give out our information. Everyone here is voting or already has voting, so they are arguing from the point of we all expect everybody to exercise that right. They have agreed to argue this point for this panel. I know each person here, I believe that they could all actually argue any of the positions with valid and justifiable information that they're well educated on the topic. If you know these people in real life, don't attack them for their stance tonight. Not that you should anyways, but this stance might not actually be their real stance. Another thing, I don't really care if you agree with any of them or not. I do want you to go vote on Tuesday and be a part of American history. Help pick the next president or keep the current one, but let your voice be heard in the year 2020. So now the 3 people on the panel this time, in no particular order, are Chloe, Nathan, and Steve, or Steven. He'll tell us which one he wants me to call him by. I'll have you guys each introduce yourself and who you're advocating for tonight, and then I'll begin with some questions after that. So let's go ahead and start. On my screen, it would be the upper left-hand corner person. So we'll go with Nathan there. Go ahead and unmute yourself and introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Nathan, and I'm here to advocate for the current and future president, President Donald J. Trump. As you guys will see over the course of this next hour, the choice between Joe Biden and Trump is pretty obvious. It's nice that we threw in Steven here for a third party so that people are aware that they actually exist, because a lot of people don't. But yeah, I'm here to prove why Trump is a better vote than Joe Biden.
All right, and we'll have Chloe. Go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us who you're going for.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? I am Chloe. I am also on Twitch under the name of Sin Phoenix. That's SYNFENIX. I am a anarcho-syndicalist and advocating for the true, enlightened political position of anarcho-Bidenism. That is, voting for Biden. No gods, no malarkey. So, yeah.
Awesome, thank you. And then last but not least, Steven, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us who you're advocating for.
Hey, my name's Steven. I'm advocating for Joe Jorgensen for president, representing the Libertarian Party. I think it's a great year for libertarians. While we might not have the strongest chance, we're definitely reaching out to a lot of people for a better chance in the next 4 years.
Awesome. All right, well, everybody watch on different streams that are being shared out there. You guys can call in 402-979-NBNB, which is 6262. It's the number right there in the middle of the screen for you. Again, that's 402-979-6262. That will ring directly to the phone here in the studio, which you can see. And we're going to go ahead and start a little bit with something a little bit easy, but a little bit necessary. So I'm going to have each person here talk these different points. What I want you guys to do is kind of
For my
tell us
chat, that's exclamation mark
in a
call
couple of
in,
minutes
and you can make
why
that
we should
call.
vote for your candidate. And then I'll let each person do that. And then after that, I'm going to have each of you tell me reasons why you understand that people wouldn't vote for your candidate, okay? So we'll start with the last introduction. We'll start with Steven here.
Hey, perfect. Thank you. I'm somebody who grew up in a Democratic household. I was, I believe, a registered Democrat when I was 18 years old. Joined the military at 18. Fell more in line with the Republican Party. And then after the Trump and Hillary election, I was just burnt out. I didn't like either side. I didn't feel like either side truly represented me and my family, who had different issues. I didn't feel like my side was taken. The thing that drew me to the Libertarian Party is that the party has always advocated for personal liberties. Since its foundation, 1971, it's been a party that has supported, same-sex marriage, even today's issues, transgenderism, things that have to do with your own body. Why should the government have a choice on your body? And that's something libertarians believe in strongly. And that's why I voted for the first time in my life at 27 years old, just yesterday with my wife for Joe Jorgensen. And yeah, I mean, it's a party that puts more of the responsibility on yourself rather than the government taking care of you.
Awesome, excellent. We'll go next to Chloe here. Go ahead.
So like I said, I am here for Joe Biden. I actually, it's kind of strange. I look at voting as or let me restart here. I was born and raised in a strongly Republican household, and I probably would have gone down a few unsavory rabbit holes if it wasn't for my education and kind of meeting some of the people I would have. But I look at voting as a utilitarian calculation. I look at this as there's a very, I don't look at voting as, I'm voting for someone who I'm going to go have a drink with. I look at voting as a sort of okay, what do I think the most useful outcome is going to be? And I see that as Joe Biden. For a number of reasons, I was a large Bernie Sanders supporter, but I kind of don't look at, I look at, saying, oh, well, even though Bernie Sanders isn't running, I still think that's very important to become politically active and be cognizant and aware of that.
Excellent. And last but not least.
So I did grow up in a conservative household. I actually do lean more libertarian than conservative. The last election I voted for Gary Johnson. When it came down to it, Trump was an unknown. We all know his moral flaws, but I had no clue how he was going to govern. From looking at him in the past, it seemed like a Democrat that was trying to act like a Republican. And I wanted to get the Libertarian Party up to that 5%, so I voted with Gary Johnson. Obviously, he didn't hit the 5%. But over the course of the last 4 years, if you actually look at what he's done and not what the media has portrayed him as, he's been one of the most conservative presidents in U.S. history in terms of his accomplishments and what he's done. And as far as just kind of the character stuff at this point, I probably still would have been leaning libertarian if it wasn't for the Democrats' push that they're doing now with packing the Supreme Court, adding states willy-nilly to the Senate to try to get more seats there, ending the filibuster. All these things are attacks on the actual institution and not the view or perception of the institution that we see from tweets. And I just think that's too dangerous for me to do another vote for the Libertarian Party this time. So I'm supporting Trump.
Okay, those are all very well thought out reasons, and that's very good. So I'll start back with you then, Nathan. We'll go back the other way.
Really quick, you've got an echo.
Let me mute. Yeah.
There we go. Sorry.
It's all right.
We are, just so anybody knows, Nathan and I are in the same studio, so if we don't meet each other, we are 6 feet apart. So we'll start with Nathan this time, and I would need to know, you obviously should be able to tell me why, and so basically also any viewers, treat this as I'm the person you're trying to convince to vote for your person because I'm undecided, okay? So obviously you can tell me some reasons why I shouldn't vote for your person, because you should know enough about your candidate to know the good and the bad, in my opinion. So go ahead, Nathan.
I mean, I can answer this with one word, but I'm going to give it more than that. Trump. That's the reason that you would not vote for Trump, is he is Trump. He's very Trumpy. He's got that New Yorker just kind of brash attitude. I wish that he would just put Twitter away. Nothing good comes from it. I do have a sense of humor. There's some funny memes, but we can all agree that just kind of the office of the presidency has been eroded over the last 4 years from a visual perception. And I understand why people can see that and why people would care about how the presidency is viewed when doing their decisions.
Okay, I think everybody's well aware of Twitter, so we definitely all understand that one. We'll go with you, Chloe. I mean, explain to us kind of reasons why people wouldn't vote for for Biden.
Well, I mean, Biden absolutely is the establishment candidate. It sounds terrible to say that, but I mean, he does represent like everything that effectively has been happening and led us up to this point. He's the most milquetoast neoliberal out there, and like ultimately, like I think it's gonna go back to 4 more years of the Obama era presidency, and I can't say I'm terribly excited for that, but compared to a lot of other stuff, I think it'd be a lot better.
That's obviously valid there because he was part of the Obama era presidency, so that's good. And Stephen, what are some reasons, especially since not very many people are that aware of Jo Jorgensen, some reasons why we would not vote for her?
Well, Jo Jorgensen doesn't have a lot of experience in the political, climate. She hasn't been like a senator or, a mayor or anything. And that could be, a turnoff for some people. I would argue the counter to that is, obviously Trump didn't have a lot of political experience, and, that could be something that's scary for people. Maybe people are a little scared to trust somebody who doesn't have that experience. I will argue that, she is a doctor. She has an education, and she's a breath of fresh air. But just like last election, this is an election where a lot of people feel like the very lifeblood of the nation depends on who wins, Democrats or Republicans. And like Chris said, some people don't want to, put a vote on the Libertarian Party because they feel like this election matters.
Those are all very good opening reasons for and against everything, and obviously shows you all know your people. I think it is valid to point out that we didn't know what Trump would do because he wasn't a politician. He didn't have any more experience. But one of the things that gets me with people talking about your ability to be the president is there's only really 2 requirements to be the president: age and national born citizen. So those are the only 2 things that really make you capable of being the president. A lifelong time in politics is not that case. So that's always something people should know. Before we go into some questions about policy, stuff like that, I do want to open it up to anybody who might be chatting with anybody and anywhere, and anybody who might want to call in at 402-979-6262. Do any of you guys have chat questions coming in anywhere? Producer, anything? Anybody talking to us here wants to ask a question?
Hey, like I said, my chat, ! Call in.
Perfect. Okay, we'll keep going. If anybody does get a question, feel free to just kind of raise your hand or stop us, and we'll definitely, we would like to address any live audience members prior to anything else, so definitely there. Did anybody have any questions or any comments about the other people in opening remarks here? No? All right, cool. So let's kind of start a little bit with policies.
Oh,
so everybody
I got a question.
has a... Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Do you think Biden will finish his first term, or will Harris be put in?
I'll let you start that one, Chloe, since you're the Biden.
I think it's a toss-up. Like, honestly, I'll be honest. I like Harris. I really do. I know a lot of people are like, she's more radical than Bernie Sanders, but I mean, in all reality, Bernie really wasn't that radical. He was pretty centrist.
Let me pause you for 1 second. Because this is what happens on this show. We get some phone calls in here. Oh, we have a call from Maureen. Thank you for calling, Maureen. This is Chris with Nebraska Booze and Babel.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
I'm doing good. Do you have a question for anybody on our panel tonight?
I do. In full disclosure, I want everyone to know I work with Chris and Alan at One World, and so we've shared a lot of views throughout the year or so that we've worked together, so I just want to put that out there. The one thing I have, my big question, and I don't know the gentleman's name that is the Biden supporter, and I apologize that I didn't catch your name. I joined a little bit late. But how is it that you see him as an establishment candidate? Because his views on fracking, getting rid of oil, socialism, healthcare, none of them are establishment quo at all. I would say we don't have a candidate, maybe Jo Jorgensen, that may be establishment, but Trump is definitely not establishment. But the one comment he made when he said that he doesn't have to be able to be friends with the person, he doesn't have to want to go out and go get coffee with them.
Right.
I understand that, but how is Joe Biden establishment
Okay.
for what he stands for?
All right, so for clarity, we have myself, Steven, and Nathan, and then Chloe is our other person here, and she is the one that is debating for Biden. But that's, just so you're aware. Yeah, did you hear all that, Chloe?
Yeah. So my first response is a
Thank
lot
you,
of
Maureen.
like Biden's very open and about he doesn't want to get rid of fracking, at least in the initial parts. And I don't think actually getting rid of the oil industry is a bad thing. We're looking at a point in time where the oil industry is kind of holding America back. Like the big thing with America is we've been founded on innovation for the past 100 years. That's been like number one big thing is the American innovation, American innovation. Like moving towards renewable energy is a fundamentally American thing. Like I would say it's something that we should be pushing for. Like while we're sitting on our laurels, all these other countries are inventing this technology, and if we're sitting on America, if we're looking at American capitalism, then why don't we increase this out here? That's kind of to that fracking oil point. But as far as being the establishment, he is a politician. He is, he knows that there is a level of decorum that comes with the office. He knows that there is a level of kind of where everything stands. Yeah, a lot of people are well, he might be, he looks a bit more to the left, but if you really look at the numbers and everything, a lot more people want something an expansion of Medicare and Medicaid. A lot more people, it's something 80% of the country is my medical expenses are too high. A large number of the country thinks that there's not enough people are paying their fair share in taxes, so let's readdress the tax system. The tax system is something huge that we've always been in almost every election looking at. And even in this level of if you're making over if you're making under $400,000 a year, which I don't think anyone in this panel makes over $400,000 a year, I'm gonna make a guess because that's a very slim number of the population. Fundamentally, your taxes won't change, and that's something that's important. And that's a very standard established thing is you don't really want to touch and mess with the taxes of the middle class, because that's kind of where we're sitting here the establishment's always been strong strong, healthy middle class. God, I'm sorry, I'm
It's okay. Grab a drink.
I do want to
Nathan-
correct the
Nathan has a
statement.
comment. Go ahead.
I do want to correct the statement real quick on Joe Biden and fracking. He wasn't pro fracking until he saw the polls in Pennsylvania and other states that he needed. You can see within this campaign cycle, video after video after video of him saying that he is for getting away with fracking. But recently they have changed their stance to where they're saying no fracking on federal lands, and then they're not going to have new leases on fracking. So when the current leases run out, those are going to run out. So there's not going to be any new ones there. And he has said that he wants to be oil free by 2035.
Oh yeah.
So there are thousands and thousands and thousands of people that rely on that for jobs. And fracking is the main reason that under the Trump administration, we became energy independent. We don't have to get our oil from other countries because we're able to get it here. So while Joe Biden does say that, no, he's pro-fracking, just look at his record and you'll know that that's not the case. He's lying to you right now.
Well,
that's fair. And also in the last presidential debate, Trump directly called him out and said, are you saying that you want to do it with fracking? And he did say yes. There was no dancing around it. He did say he will end it, which was a big issue for people in Texas. The governor of Texas tweeted about it. Why do they all got to tweet? We'll never understand. But yeah, so yeah, there's some, like Chloe said, he's a politician. He's gonna answer both sides, talk out both sides of his mouth.
I think it's important too to note that his stance isn't that day one it's gone. It's gonna be a phased out thing, because
it would be impossible for day one for it to be gone. You can't just turn them off.
Yeah,
it's not.
But I mean, I would say even to all the people who are working in the oil industry and everything, if we start making solar panels and we start making, batteries and stuff for all of this stuff, all of this, you're going to see a level of American ingenuity come back. You're going to be having foreign countries. Oh my God, now we have companies who are making this stuff instead of us having to go to, say, Germany because they were the first to market and they have the best stuff out there. We're going to have American companies being put first. We're going to be having American companies make money. We're going to be seeing, all that revenue is going to be going to us instead of us going out to another country. And all those jobs are going to be in America. All of that industry is gonna be here. It's not gonna be somewhere else. Like that's the big thing I would say is if we're looking at like if you're worried about it from the job standpoint, investing in this renewable energy isn't going to get rid of the jobs. It's actually probably going to make more because it's a more complicated process. And on top of that too, like we do know that there is like environmental issues with fracking. Like a lot of that land that gets fracked, like you can't use it for anything else for like decades.
So before Nathan makes his comment, so are you insinuating that people who are in the fracking business could then just jump over and be in the renewable energy business? Like the guys out on the oil rigs can just suddenly make panels?
I mean, it's not going to be like a 1-to-1, like instantaneous switch, but it would be like, okay, we're
Be like 2%.
it would be, I think it would be more of like, it's going to be like job training. Like, because people on the oil rigs, you know, I've never worked on an oil rig, but it would just be like learning a different trade skill.
Yeah. I've got just so I can tell you, I have actually family members who are roughnecks, you know, that work on oil rigs. I don't see any of them being able to transition that job set skills into, like you're saying, like build solar panels, stuff like that. It's to me, it'd be a totally different thing. It'd be great if one of them wants to call and tell me, but I believe there's quite a bit of training involved in being able to do that. It's a tough job. What did you have, Nathan?
So I just kind of wanted to comment on two things. Just you already kind of talked about it. The people in the oil industry transitioning over to being in renewable energy or whatever, and that no, it's not going to end day one, but at least they'll have enough time to learn the code for their next job. As far as renewable energy, though, everybody acts like the solar energy and wind energy are just absolutely clean. It's the way of the future. But that power has to be stored in batteries when the sun's not out or when there's no wind. Those batteries come from mining nickel and other sorts of things, so they are also damaging to the environment. It's spread out over more land. The amount of land that you need to take up to have renewable energy from wind farms or solar farms is a lot more than you're going to get from the oil industry or nuclear power. I think most of the US's electricity comes from burning coal right now. But while I do see that, yes, there's a benefit to things like solar energy and wind energy, there's still a long ways to go for that to be efficient enough to where it's actually worth it. And it's not a 100% clean energy right now. So we do have to transition to something. I think the most efficient and most cost effective is actually nuclear, but people don't like nuclear for obvious reasons. But yeah, those are my main comments there. And
So-
I do want to make sure we give Steven time to talk.
Yeah.
Just
Definitely.
Sorry.
Steven, did you have any comments on any of that stuff?
Yeah, you got to give a little love to the little guy. So my problem with wind power, and it's not like, you know, I understand, you know, where she's coming from is just learn a new trade. But anyone that's worked 40 hours in any kind of, you know, hardworking industry knows that when you get off work, you don't want to go to school. You want to go back to your house. You want to shower. You want to maybe sit down, watch the game, play some video games, drink. You know, you're basically saying like, hey, in a year, your guys' career is going to be dead, and you need to spend your free time learning this new trade. And the problem with that is you also got all these kids in college who are getting degrees for that same trade who are going to have a much better advantage over these guys, you know, who are a lot older. Because I used to have a job as a recruiter, and there is that attribute, you know, between a younger employee and an older employee. Yes, the older employee has more experience, maybe is better with instructions, but that younger employee you're going to get a lot more mileage out of. The other problem with wind turbines is that the blades are not easily. Most of, I think it was 90% of a wind turbine can be recycled because the metal can be reused. But there is a landfill issue right now with the blades from those wind turbines because they can't be recycled. So now you're creating these landfills where we're just, you know, dumping stuff, which is a huge issue. And then when you look at things like killing coal, you're not just killing, you know, these coal plants, you know, mining facilities. You're also killing transportation. These businesses that, you know, their whole job is transporting coal from point A to point B. You're killing office jobs whose job are to count the coal. It's not just a simple, you know, we can just cut this out and replace it with X, because maybe we won't need so many people with, you know, Y. I'm not, you know, I don't have all the facts, but there are some things to, you know, to think
And
about.
you can't argue against innovation for the simple fact of keeping old jobs. I mean, it's kind of like
Exactly.
arguing about like not having cell phones because we got to pay the guy that comes and puts in your home line.
Yeah,
Like, like eventually technology expands, so we all get that.
it's the big
We had
horse
some questions in
paradigm.
the chat. Yeah, I mean, technology is going to advance, so when we all get that, we could talk all night long on like wind energy and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So we'll just kind of move on from that a little bit because obviously I think everybody understands that.
There was one other point I wanted to address in the
Yes.
question is right now I don't actually see any candidates who are like full on socialism, because like socialism really is the workers controlling the means of production, and I don't see anyone. I mean, maybe Howie Hawkins, but God, the Green Party's just, they're so detached from reality right now that like would say like that would basically go out through and say, okay, well, we need to transition traditional firms into co-ops or anything like that. And like, you know, even when Biden's like most extreme is probably healthcare, and I don't think, you know, a single payer system is inherently socialistic. It's just putting us on par with what the rest of the world has.
And if I might add, I just got sent a fact by a buddy of mine who's listening in. He wanted me to point out that less than 10% of Michigan was able to swap from the automotive industry to any other career, even with free schooling to transition. So it's not
I
like,
thought
you
it
know,
was 2%, but yeah, 10% sounds.
But it was a really low number. I mean, I agree. You shouldn't not do innovation just for, you know, keeping your job, but you should also take into account like these are a lot of people who are going to lose their livelihoods.
Wasn't there
you
also
have to take into consideration 90% of people in that job field then being on government welfare?
there was a lot of other, I want to say there was a lot of other socioeconomic factors that went into that. I don't have the data on hand, but I want to say that there was a lot of stuff, because that happened right when the war on drugs and stuff started too, didn't it?
Ooh, I don't know for a fact on the dates on that, but
I don't know the dates on that, but boo, war.
So
on
I'm
drugs.
okay with the transition of things. I just want that to happen naturally via the economy and not from government mandate.
Oh,
saying
yeah.
2035, we're going to be done with this.
Oh, no, yeah. I mean, but I think too that like we need to be investing in these things. Like right now American companies have no incentive to invest, and we're not actually providing like, because also a lot of the major like things that we've seen, like internet, cell phones, all of that came out of public sector investments. Like the internet was literally a DARPA project. Like, you know, like that's how we're able to, like, yeah. That's how we're able to, you know, communicate. Now, so this was a public sector investment. Like so companies aren't necessarily incentivized to invest. Unfortunately, it comes from taxpayers' money, and we're just not doing that. And that's kind of what I want to see. I want to see us taking some of this money and putting it towards these investments. And I honestly, I don't see it happening under, you know, a Trump presidency. I see him too tied to a lot of the, you know, big oil companies, and with Jorgensen saying, well, we're going to kind of back off from everything and let capitalism take care of everything. I don't see her, you know, wanting to do any of those investments either.
This is the kind of two sides to the same coin. So Chloe is saying that there needs to be more investment in these companies, and we should do that through the taxpayers' money. Like, we need to give incentives. My thing is, let's make it easier for them to make money. Let's not have all of these regulations that cost extra money. Let's give them tax incentives to do that here instead of going to other countries, and let people charge their own path forward. But I do agree, there's not enough incentive in that sector to make money off of it. So let's find ways to be able to do that.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know what your whole incentivizing isn't. I'm sure that, you know, if we talked about the specifics, we could probably agree on quite a bit. But there needs to be some regulation. There needs to be some, you know, some forms of it, because you can't just do unregulated. Otherwise, you're going to have people dumping toxic waste in the river.
Some safety things and whatnot. I do agree that things should be safe.
And those are all great points. We are going to move on from the energy incentives, because we do have some other things to talk about. We don't want to get stuck too long on one specific thing. But those are all really good points, and actually all valid things to talk about. So good job on all that stuff. Let's move a little bit on to some policy type things, because this will be an interesting thing, because we have two candidates, one who's never been in real politics, one who's only been in it for 4 years, and one who's basically been in it for almost 5 decades. Where do you see your guys's candidate on foreign policy? I think that's something that was really left out of the debates this year. and it looks like Stephen really would like to talk about that one. So we'll start with you, Stephen. So foreign policy to me is very important because in our country, it matters to be a leader in the world. It matters to have relationships with other countries. It doesn't necessarily mean we got to be in bed with all of them. So when I mean foreign policy, I mean, how do you see your candidate working with other countries? How do you see us policing the world? That kind of stuff. And especially with Jo Jorgensen, it is important to note that if she were to have become the president, she would be the first female president. And while everybody would like to talk about equality and all that stuff, something that's always been in my head is a female president will be looked on differently by countries who do not value females. So
Absolutely.
What are your takes on Jo Jorgensen's? About 3 or 4 minutes here.
All right, so easily, before I go forward, let me have a little note. Libertarians are a party of very strong-willed, open-minded people. So there are going to be libertarians who don't agree with me. The biggest meme in our party is, he's not a libertarian, I'm a libertarian. So, there are going to be people who don't agree with exactly what I say. I will say a majority of libertarians I talk to agree that our foreign policy under Democrats and Republicans, both, relies too much on the military to do a lot of our diplomacy. Put a flip side, how many foreign military bases do we have inside of America? And that's zero. We don't have a Russian military base. We don't have a British military base in America, but we have our bases everywhere. And we kind of taken on this role of the policeman of the world ever since World War II in the Cold War. Libertarians believe in pulling out. That shouldn't be our job. We shouldn't be spending our taxpayer money on foreign aid and foreign military presence in other countries that we have no business in. We should always come from a more peaceful interaction. We should be, relying more on diplomacy instead of being the big stick, big mouth guy. Like, hey, we're America. That we blow shit up all the time. Are you sure you want to be saying that kind of crazy stuff over there? It shouldn't be that. We should be relying more on diplomacy. We should be relying more on a peaceful, World War II and before America, where hey, the rest of Europe is going crazy right now, but that's not our fight. And then we only got dragged in because, Pearl Harbor. And that's a stance a lot of, I would say a lot of libertarians agree on, is that, the war on terror, 2001 till now, has produced more terrorists, more issues in the Middle East than it's solved. Between Iraq, Afghanistan, between all the drone strikes Obama did, between all the issues Bush had, each president has said, well, I'm going to pull out, between Obama and Trump. And while Trump has made some efforts to pull out, it just hasn't been done. Why are we sending our young men and women to a nation that doesn't want us there anymore? And I will say there are some there that maybe do want us there. There are grateful civilians who appreciate our input, but just from my personal experience in the military, blowing up city blocks and stuff doesn't really build a lot of confidence in people, because between them blowing it up and us blowing it up, there's no difference.
So one of the things I often hear people say, one of the things I would say to you as you're trying to convince me to vote for Joe and say, oh well, I want to pull everybody back, usually we would have our forces in those countries because they asked us to come there. We don't just decide, hey, let's go build a base in this country and forcibly put a base there and then take over that area of land and then start sending out, what I'm saying? Usually we're there because we were asked to be. On to your side of that stuff, Trump has made that small effort to pull back, but what would somebody on your side of the vote say about the recent things that Trump has done as far as getting countries to sign peace treaties that have never, ever even been on the board before in the last 4 or 5 months here?
I think they would agree with that. That's more of the peaceful negotiating that we kind of advocate for. That's not, and I don't know what negotiations they had. Maybe Trump was like, hey, if you don't do this, I'm going to blow your shit up. Maybe he wasn't. We don't have access to that information, but, and I do agree with you. Some nations do ask us to be there, like South Korea, where I spent 2 of my years in the military. We have a deep friendship with them where they want us there as a deterrent against North Korea. But there are countries like Japan, for example, who never asked us to have military bases there. Us having military bases there was part of the deal after World War II to demilitarize them, that we offer protection and we're kind of like a watchdog there, which shouldn't be. We shouldn't have an influence still on a nation that we defeated, 70 plus, 60 plus years ago.
Sure.
They should have their own freedoms at this point. We shouldn't have our hands in it. Another issue I see with people on foreign policy is everyone up in arms about Russia, Iran, and all those guys influencing our election this year. And I turned around, You guys never heard of the CIA? You don't think we're over in other countries messing with their elections? This is just, karma coming back at us. I don't like it. I don't like other countries influencing my election, but at the same time, I can't be like up in arms about it because we've done the same thing.
So in your mind, would George Jorgensen's foreign policy be much more of a live and let live type thing?
Yes, we would focus the military on more of a defensive setup. Like, hey, this is our border. These are maybe our closest allies. South Korea, maybe England. Like, that's it. Like, we're more of a defensive posture. Unless you directly fuck with us, we're not gonna fuck with you.
What did you have, Nathan?
So that's actually a pretty easy act to follow up, since you really covered a lot of Trump's stances in that. One other thing I'd like to point out is that Trump is the first president in I don't know how many decades it's been that hasn't started any new wars. He has been pulling troops back. He has been signing peace treaties left and right with Arab nations, which people thought was never going to happen. When Trump was taking office, everybody thought we were about to go to war with North Korea. I haven't heard anything from them since then. Crimea was taken over by Russia under the Obama administration, even though we had a treaty with Ukraine to protect their land if they would denuclearize, and we didn't fulfill that treaty. Russia took over that land. But yeah, there's been no new wars. He does want to pull troops back. He is pulling troops back. Obviously, there's going to be people like bureaucrats that fight him on that, and that sort of thing not happen. I know one thing with the Vietnam War, the media really, really swayed how that went. And Trump has not had the media on his side. If the media was covering Trump trying to get us out, trying to get these troops pulled out, we probably would have had more of that done by now. But he's having to fight against every single person in his way to try to get his policies enacted. But I would say that Trump agrees with a lot of the things that you're saying there, and I'm really happy that we have your support. I didn't think it would take that long to get you on my side.
So two counterpoints to what you said. The first one being Trump hasn't started any new wars. I will agree with you that he hasn't, but he damn well tried when he killed that Iranian dude with a drone strike. Now, while I won't argue that as a former military guy, I agree with that. Didn't like the guy, he had to go. But as a Libertarian Party, they don't believe the government should have the power to choose who lives and dies. We're against the death penalty, and we could argue about that later in another topic. But the government shouldn't be over here choosing who lives and who dies in the world when it's not in direct defense of our nation. And as far as the Vietnam War, the media didn't help the military in the Vietnam War. It actually hurt the support for the Vietnam War because Americans were seeing the carnage and brutality of war for the first time on colored TV. This is something that maybe, Uncle Tom would come home from the war and you'd be like, why does he drink so much? Why is he angry? And you wouldn't really know. Maybe you hear some stories, but for the first time, people could see, dead bodies, the shell-shocked look on soldiers, and the brutality that is war. And that really killed the morale. We had protests. We had, a call to end the war. And I'm sure my 4 minutes is up, so I'll mute myself.
You're good. So Chloe, you can talk to Joe Biden. Has actually been a part of our government for 40 plus years, so he probably has the most foreign policy experience.
Yeah.
How do you see his presidency going in that way?
So, unfortunately, I want to start off by saying that, Joe Biden served in the White House with Obama, and Obama absolutely was a war hawk. I don't think there's any question there. He started wars. He, basically really escalated our initial drone strikes. But I do want to, for the drone strikes, I want to point out the fact that Trump actually has done more drone strikes than Biden has, or than Obama did. God, Biden has. God, he's not even president. He did more, proportionately, in the time period. But as far as, and I think this is something that Biden kind of understands, is that there's a lot of really, really complicated reasons that we have and we are in the places we have. When you look at foreign policy, it boils down to two things. It boils down to military, and it boils down to effectively economic or diplomatic policy. Our military policies are really, really complicated because we have a long-standing history of being one of the few countries not affected on the majority of our soil by a world war. All of them, I shouldn't say few countries. One of the few countries that was considered to be in the first world. And so we kind of got into this place where, For the most part, we escaped World War One and World War Two relatively unscathed. That's not a lot. That's not really something you can say for a lot of the other major superpowers, like even Russia, who didn't see a lot of conflict, separated out. Like they kind of saw out. They saw fallout from World War II. Granted, it was 40 years later and in the fall of USSR, but we still saw it. So a lot of the reason why we have a lot of military bases is because of a lot of really complex treaties and all that kind of stuff. I agree we tend to have too many military bases. I don't think Biden would go through and say, I'm going to decrease that, but I don't think that he's going to go through and start establishing more bases. I do know a lot of our military bases in foreign countries are kind of we'll provide technology and we'll work with their military and all that kind of stuff, and I think that's something he kind of would be something I see him being continuing on. But the second thing from a diplomatic and economic standpoint is, as far as our treaties and allies go, is Trump has done a really, really good job about alienating our allies. Like, if you really look at it, like Angela Merkel, God, I don't remember who's in charge in Europe. It changes weekly now, or not Europe, in UK, it changes weekly. What's his name in France? But like all of like the big European like countries that we.
Nathan said Boris Johnson. Is that who you're looking for?
Is that who it is now? Okay, but like he's done a really good job about kind of making them mad. And kind of, like he's done a really good job about nuzzling up to Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un and a lot of these like strongman dictators like Bolsonaro and everything like that. And it's been kind of a weird, interesting like dichotomy to see with all of this, where it's like now we're at a point in time where we're starting to see like the effects of that come off. Or like, what's his name from China? Pooh Bear.
Did you just do a Trump?
Wow.
No, that's actually a thing that, like, he actually has a really personal thing being called Pooh Bear because they look so similar. Like, it's actually a thing. Like, really, like, looking at that and being like, oh, this is really great. Yeah, Xi Jinping. But, like, even at, like, international economic things, international diplomatic things, like China is sending like 20, 30 people, and they're like I shouldn't say overcrowding these meetings, but like they're filling tables in these meetings, and then we have like Jared Kushner showing up late and sitting on his iPad or iPhone in the lobby because he couldn't get to the next one. Like, why are we not in that position? Like, that's what I want to see, and I think Biden will absolutely take us to like absolutely take that back into that position and say, like, we will be getting into a situation here where we're seeing a reestablishment and a re-engagement of, America showing off and saying, okay, now we're going to start getting back onto the world stage, which has really happened. We've let a lot of our allies down, both economically and diplomacy, and, some of our military allies down. Trump almost got us into 3 different wars, one with North Korea, when that whole standoff went down, and then with that drone strike, that was both Iran and Iraq that we could have started a war with.
I would argue that anytime you almost get into a war, but you don't, shows a position of power.
Well, and I think it wasn't really anything that we did. It was the fact that they were like, we're not going to retaliate.
Well, that was kind of we something we. Yeah, real quick, Nathan was first, and then I'll have Stephen jump in. I'm trying to keep it a little bit short because we do have some questions from some others.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, mine's
you
really
for
short.
the
I think the
follow
foreign
stuff.
policy stuff just really comes down to the perspective.
Okay.
If
Stuffed
you look
animal.
at
Thank
from
you
the
for the follow.
perspective of like, yeah, there were times where you could see people on video laughing or doing this or doing that. But he's increased spending in the NATO for that budget there. We do have those peace treaties signed. Yes, he did the drone strike on Soleimani. And no, they didn't retaliate. So there was those almost wars there. And then with Biden, I mean, he voted for the Iraq war, and then he voted against the surge, which was the thing that kind of helped level that out. He was part of the Obama administration. He's been in office for 47 years. I mean, he's supported all kinds of different wars. Stephen and I are actually kind of more in agreement here, and I think Joe Biden's the outlier. So yes, from a perspective, there are people in other countries that don't like Trump, but they're not the ones voting for the president, so I don't really care about their perspective, if I'm being completely honest.
That's fair. What did you have for us, Stephen?
I'll speak on the North Korean thing. I'm not a big fan of talking to any dictator, especially I have a really big hate for North Korea, stemming from the death camps they have and the fact that the entire world's not doing anything about that. But I will say that anytime a president can sit down and find common ground and negotiate with anyone, whether it's friend or foe or neutral, and maybe bring a little bit of neutrality to the area, that's something I can smile on. Like if they can save lives and make a peaceful solution, that is exactly what the Libertarian Party wants, and I'm not going to condemn them for doing that.
Do you see Joe Biden or Joe Jorgensen being a person that would be capable of doing something like Trump and be on the demarc line, be in North Korea and actually meet with the North Korean dictator?
That's difficult, just because of the culture of North Korea. I'm not 100% sure how they feel with females. I know that his sister is absolutely terrifying, and maybe that is because she is part of the family, and that usually comes with a lot of respect. But as somebody who spent 2 years in South Korea in the military, I will say North Korea does these waves of where they'll get big and loud about, like, hey, we're going to go to war, and really it's because they want something. And usually we'll offer them something like food, resources, maybe some kind of deal, like, hey, calm down, here's your food for your tantrum, we'll see you again in like 6 months. And they have a cycle of this. And I will say under Trump, that cycle's been a lot less. And that's something I can't agree with him on, that he did find some way to negotiate that down.
Okay. So we do have quite a few people in the chat asking different things here. To Sierra, who was asking about talking about climate change, we did talk about fracking and wind energy and whatnot a little bit earlier, and this has been recorded, so it will be out again later. So you can definitely go back and see that. We do have somebody named Marcus who jumped in and said, each candidate has been fairly vocal about their stance on the current pandemic. We kind of knew this was going to come at some point, right? The right claims that it has already been defeated, mission accomplished message. The left and libertarian sees it as an ongoing threat. How do each of these representatives feel that your party has addressed this and that your specific candidate has done it? We'll start with Stephen. Go ahead, since you're already on.
So that's actually something I haven't looked at, and I feel ashamed for not getting a libertarian stance on that. From my understanding, it's more of it should be up to the people, like the local state governments. It shouldn't be the federal government cracking down saying this is what has to happen. It should be down to the local communities. I live in Portland, Oregon. Portland shouldn't be deciding the entire policy for the entire state when we have farmlands and smaller communities who have a different population and different interaction than the bigger city. And that's a stance I feel like we do stand on.
Do you feel like if Joe was the president, things would have been handled similar to the way Trump has kind of allowed things to be done on the state level? Or do you feel like she might have done, or your party would have done a little more of, we're going to shut globally down, or we're going to federally control this? Or
So that's a big topic for me. So back in January, I actually had message traffic to record this, where I was talking to a friend of mine because I was going to travel to Vegas in February, and I was like, hey man, why is no one concerned about this China virus that's coming out? And and being in the West Coast, I remember a bunch of mayors and senators and stuff saying, ignore Trump's xenophobic, racist ban on travel to China, and come on down to Chinese New Year, come down to these parades and stuff. And then when everyone got sick, they turned around and said, well, it's Trump's fault for not shutting down the border. And that's something that really pushed me to the Libertarian Party too, was they made these decisions and then rolled around and played victim, and that's something I got tired of seeing with both parties. So I would say, as a libertarian stance, it's more about personal choice. It's your personal liberty. My personal perspective, and don't flame me for this, people. It should be up to the person. If you are somebody who has a compromised immune system, or you feel you are vulnerable, you should stay home, and there should be some kind of incentive so you don't get fired from your job, that you can stay home because you have a health concern. But if you're somebody like me who's in the pretty good survivable bracket, I feel confident that I can still go to work and that I'm willing to risk that to keep my family financially afloat. And I like the fact that I have a decision. It should be your personal liberty to make that choice with your own body, because you are at risk.
I like that last part there, your choice with your own body. That's a very good statement. We'll jump over to Chloe. You want to talk about how you view the pandemic would be handled with Biden, and how? And I don't know very much about how he said he would handle it, other than like he says he'll take control. So, I mean, I would love to be enlightened by what you know.
Yeah, so I'm basically going to echo what he says, and he says he's going to listen to the science. Like, he's going to listen to what his medical experts say. He's going to listen to, what top doctors are saying. Like, this is something that, people say, oh, it's over, it's over, it's over. Well, Friday, we hit a record number of cases, 101,000 cases, like, just in one day alone. Like, that's the number of, and, like, we're at almost 10 million, we're at 9.5 million cases, and almost 250,000 people have died from this. Like, so this is a very big deal. As far as some of like the other stances go, like he did mention it would be really hard, if not impossible, to instigate a national mask mandate. Yeah, but he also said too that you need to have some sort of standards and how that applies and how that affects and changes things around. Like, obviously, shutting down a country isn't the right way to go, but it depends. There's a lot of data out there that can be, shown for a lot of different actions and a lot of different choices. As far as, the ultimate overall, I'm not really sure kind of like the exact step down through all of this as far as how the science is going to play out. But he did ostensibly say, like, listen, if scientists and economists say this is the best idea, then that's what we're going to go with. We're going to look this through. We're not going to take things off the table. But I do know that we've seen countries around the world, like New Zealand, like shut down everything for 6 weeks, and they have like 0 cases right now. Like South Korea did a lot of similar stuff.
So since I'm in the chat here, I'll just jump in. This is a discussion to you. So Chloe, they're stating that we aren't electing a scientist. So you're stating that Biden would simply not make any decisions. He would only go, "Oh, I have this scientist here who said this." My question as a voter would be, which scientist is he listening to? Because it's on all sides, all kinds of places. Also on a number point, like you mentioned, 250,000 deaths. That's like 0.06% of the world population.
Well, yeah,
to be clear.
I mean,
but yeah, to their point, we're not electing a scientist. So how do you respond to that?
You're right. We're not electing a scientist. We're electing a leader. Like, we're electing someone who needs to be like looking at things, at the data, and looking at it and saying, okay, I understand. Here's what I say. I don't have the answers. I go to the experts to get the answers, and that's what he's doing. He's going to the experts, and a lot of the scientists we're looking at CDC, we're looking at Johns Hopkins, we're looking at Mayo Clinic, we're looking at medical experts, economists across the country. Like, these aren't people who are just like, like sitting around and someone just did the math on my stream and said it's 4% of the cases that we have so far end in death. Like, a 4% mortality rate is huge. But as far as
so to your point there, a good leader, and leadership is something I'm very passionate about. A good leader doesn't go, "Hey, what do you think?" Okay, that's what I'm going to do. A good leader gets a lot of information from a lot of sources on both sides of a subject and doesn't outsource his decision, but actually makes his decision for the best outcome due to his people that he's leading.
Oh, absolutely.
So, I'm not sure as a voter I would really want a guy who's just going to stand there and go, "Oh, well, I'll use Dr. Fauci because I know he's the current guy that gives everybody information. And I'm going to listen to this guy in the CDC who says something different every other day."
And that's not what he's saying. He's not saying, "Oh, I'm going to let the scientists purely make the decision." He says, "I'm going to take their advice."
I'm aware of that. I want to be clear on that for anybody watching that that's the case.
Yeah, he's just going to look at their advice and say, "This is where it's coming from."
And Steven, I saw you raise your hand. Did you have something in rebuttal there?
Yeah, I mean, if you ever played that game Pandemic, where you try and kill the world with a virus, Madagascar and New Zealand and stuff, those island nations never get killed off because they shut down that harbor right off the bat.
He's not wrong. Did you want to go ahead and address on your side there, Nathan, Trump's handling of it? The one, I guess, upside or downside to you defending Trump on this is that Trump is the only one who's actually been in these shoes. So right or wrong, he's, in my opinion, the only person who's actually had to go through this as a leader.
So first off, I would actually like to say I kind of enjoy having a libertarian here. I mean, he makes a lot of my arguments for me. Trump did have the opportunity to do a federal takeover, try to do different things, but we are a federalist government. The states are the ones that run it. Every state that needed ventilators got ventilators. They got PPE. I know there were definitely shortages at time, but they got the PPE out. They started ramping things up. New York got the ship. They got all these field hospitals, a lot of which went completely unused, by the way. And they did this. He closed the border down. Whether or not Biden was calling Trump xenophobic for closing the border down, the comment came out the day that Trump closed the border. In, I believe it was January, that he stopped traffic from China coming in, and Biden had said that he was xenophobic. The one thing that I will say is I do wish that Trump had been, that he hadn't fought back on the masks so much. The CDC was saying do not wear masks as late as March. I don't know when that actually changed to where they were saying to use masks, but he definitely took a while to get on board with that. And then you, Stephen, kind of made the point with New Zealand. I mean, they're a country out in the middle of nowhere. That's not really a fair comparison. Would UK, I think, would be a good comparison to use. We have a much higher population than the UK, so it wouldn't be fair to do a total number of deaths. So I'd rather use something like deaths per million, where we're not that far off from UK. The case fatality rate is a little bit different than the deaths per million because it's also factors in how well you're handling the virus. And the case fatality rate for us is actually pretty close to in line with the UK as well. I was actually one of the ones that was saying from the beginning that it's worse for people who are older. And so the people who are older are the ones, or the people that had different conditions or whatever, where they are at risk, are the ones that need to be kind of locked down and stuff. I agreed with kind of the Sweden model, but they didn't do enough to protect the older people there. I think if we had just had the people who were more at risk be the ones that kind of quarantined and stayed hunkered down, they're the ones that would have gotten the stimulus checks instead of going out to everybody else, because everybody else would have still been working. And then, yeah, I mean, the main thing is just kind of the masks. So masks are really kind of tricky.
Real quick.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
So on the mask point, we do have a comment here in the chat here about the mask, and which kind of goes to Chloe saying Biden will listen to his scientists, and of course she's not necessarily saying he won't listen to anybody else, but to the person that's chatting in here, he's saying doctors take an oath to do no harm, so they are naturally going to be very cautious. They aren't economists, and they don't care about my likelihood or livelihood. Or my health. They only care about his health. It is noble, but it's only one element of the equation. So in Trump's administration, he may have listened to scientists. I don't know, but he may have listened to scientists and economists and a bunch of other people and made a leadership decision. Also, the CDC, the Surgeon General, Fauci, have all at some point in their time here over this pandemic stated, don't wear masks. And then all said the same thing, wear masks. So as a leader, even, I can imagine how difficult it would be to be constantly getting different information all the time. So we'll slow that conversation down here to move on to one more piece, because we are coming up on an hour, and I'm not sure how long everybody wants to stick around for stuff. But one other thing that was
I can
definitely
probably
put into
stay
the
a
chat
bit longer.
Okay. One thing that was put into the chat multiple times was two other things, so we can kind of talk about these two things, and you guys can kind of decide what order you want to do them in. But healthcare and balancing the budget. So those two types of things. I think balancing the budget would probably be a shorter conversation, so maybe go with that one first real quick. Stephen, again, with Joe Jorgensen being a pretty non-known entity, kind of like Trump was. With Trump, we all got the whole, that's what I do. I run a business. I know how to handle this, right? Like I remember that in 2016. I can balance a budget. That's what I do. And of course, everybody will argue that he's gone bankrupt multiple times. He does base taxes, all that fun stuff. What about Joe Jorgensen, or do you know on the libertarian stance on that? Like, how would she budget the country, or would she be able to do so?
So the economy with libertarians is a very fun topic. We're a political party that believes in little to no taxes. We think the government's just too inflated. We're paying way too much to do way too much stuff. At the very basic, the libertarians want a government that provides a court system, provides police for protection, and provides a military for self-defense. Other than that, we shouldn't be doing things like, creating all these organizations and things that set up all these regulations, all these limitations on people's ability to pursue in the economy. We believe in an open market system where the market will decide, the market will provide. And I mean, that's just the basics of it. As a George Jorgensen herself, I know that she did have a corporation, a business that she helped run at one point, and she ended up walking away from it to pursue motherhood. And afterwards, she came back, I think, she founded a business consulting company in 2002 and continues working with select clients since then. So she does have her hand in business, maybe not as large as Trump does, but she does have a understanding of economics and believes that the government should just be a lot smaller, and that people will naturally come to solutions as they need.
I guess that if our government's much smaller, it's probably easier to balance that budget.
The big thing for the libertarians for the budget, I should continue, is that we believe it's immoral with all these taxes, setting up these tax plans right now. You know, when we're talking about trillions and trillions of dollars debt, it's not just me and you paying it or our grandparents.
Oh, yeah.
It's my son. It's my grandsons one day. We are putting future generations into debt without their consent. And that is a violation of their liberty. And that's a big deal to libertarians.
Put a pin in the moral issues, because I do have a couple of comments that will come on to that too. Go ahead, Chloe, just in about 2 minutes. What do you know about Biden's ability to balance a budget? Because I know he worked on the Obama administration, and we know how their budget was.
Yeah, so first of all, I want to say economics is incredibly complicated. Like, I know I said this a lot before, but for every like factor of politics, like, no one person is going to know everything, and I think it's kind of crazy to know one. But I will say, like, the biggest thing I want to point out here is a national deficit, and I want to link this in chat here so people can kind of see where I'm getting the source from. But looking through this, and this is actually corroborated with data from, who is it, the actual feds. Like, looking through this so far.
Well, real quick, which chat are you putting that into your stream's chat, or
No, I'm putting it in our Zoom chat.
The Zoom chat? Okay, I'll share that out.
But like basically the idea is after the Trump tax cuts, we actually saw our deficit increase massively. Like, not just like a couple 100,000, like in 20, like, so when a president comes into office, you kind of inherit roughly 2 to 3 years of the former president's policies. It's really difficult to kind of get through that. But the Trump tax cuts really kind of show where this budget deficit comes in from and how it kind of all plays into all of this. When you're looking into and trying to understand all of this, not taxing corporations a higher amount and, you know, kind of saying, well, we want, you know, the market to decide everything. It's really difficult. Like, I'm a market socialist. I actually like the idea of a market, but I don't like the idea of unregulated markets. I think unregulated markets tend to be bad. Because an unregulated market doesn't actually appeal to the needs of the people or anything like that. It appeals to the needs of the capital. And that's a really big problem here. But when you're looking through how, like, Biden will do it as far as increasing taxes on the upper class, like, you're talking, and I'm not talking people who, like, oh, you make a combined income of 100,000 or more. I'm talking, like, you make a combined income of, like, $1 million or more. You know, bringing
upper class would not be $100,000 income.
Well, some people look at that as like, oh my God, you know, like, and I just want to make sure that we're clear on that. This is the really high earners, and like, you know, if
Are you
you're
looking
looking
like 1%ers or not quite that?
5% maybe, okay. But like, if you're making $1 million plus a year, like, first of all, under a progressive tax bracket, if you're paying, like, say 40% on that top earnings, that means anything over that $400,000 mark is being taxed at 40%. If you're paying anything over that, like, you're probably not going to be missing a ton of that. Like, you might not get that fourth car. But, you know, like, so that's the one thing I would, you know, say. The second thing is we have a lot of corporate taxes, corporate loopholes. You know, Biden's tax plan, looking through it, it would close a lot of those loopholes. It would close a lot of those ways that companies can be like, oh, I'm going to avoid paying taxes for all this kind of stuff. And it's really important to understand. It's really important to understand that, and it's really important to kind of understand how all of that boils down and all of that like pulls in through to like these levels here, because it's like I say, it's complicated, and I want that to be the big thing.
Yeah, we can't barrel down a whole budget conversation 8 minutes.
Sorry.
But it does quickly sound like, so far at this point, libertarian is like, hey, I don't want to tax people, so the budget should not have to do with taking my money, no matter how much money I make, whether I make $10 million a year or I make $100 a year. And it sounds like you're talking, and Biden has talked about his. I've read some of his tax plan, the $400,000 mark, and there's a lot of misinformation out there about raising taxes on people who own homes and that kind of stuff. And that's not true. And he's gonna
Yeah.
definitely say, if you guys are talking about that stuff and you're seeing those things, definitely do a little bit of research on it.
Just like
It
people are
does
trying to
undo a
make
lot
this
of the
gun
tax
tax
stuff that
up.
Trump did, though. I'm sorry?
People are trying to make up this gun tax thing, and that's not even anywhere
Yeah.
in his thing. Like,
Yeah, it's not.
I think it's really important to note that, like, it's a really complicated plan, and it's really hard to break down into
A meme?
well, it's really hard to break down into like a little 4-minute segment. But
Yeah.
Do you agree with the wealth tax? That's
um,
based off of net worth.
it would be like a one-time wealth tax.
So the reason that I'm asking is because Elizabeth Warren, I believe, wants to be Secretary of the Treasury or something along that line, where she would be kind of a part of that. And that's something that she firmly supports, is a wealth tax. It would be every year based off of the net worth of that individual.
My understanding is it's a one-time wealth tax, and it only applies to people whose net worth is in excess of $10 million, which I'm okay with.
So as a libertarian, any tax is evil. I mean, it doesn't matter, if you're rich or poor. That is their money to do with what they decide. And taxation usually, in my opinion, leads these corporations maybe seeking to put their business somewhere else.
Okay.
I mean, look at Tesla leaving California because of taxes and because of the restrictions there.
So it looks like
so
the wealth tax is over $50 million. Anyone who's worth over is a 1% wealth tax above $32 million for married couples, $16 million for singles. That increases to 8% for wealthier households, starting at $50 million. Like, honestly, a lot of these people, I don't necessarily see a bad thing. I don't know if it's an annual thing. I don't necessarily say I would support an annual thing, but like a one-time thing could be good. As far as like addressing the like the taxes evil thing, my retort to that would be almost every aspect of the federal government is funded by taxes. So like if you don't like getting taxed, maybe like it sounds like a meme, but don't drive on roads.
Just a reminder, we fought a whole Revolutionary War based on taxes.
Well,
And
that
I
was
believe our forefathers would be rolling in their grave to have all these
That
taxes
was without
raised.
representation.
without representation,
I was
exactly.
leading to that, but
Okay.
Which we are arguably represented.
Okay, we'll give Trump, because we haven't talked about Trump Biden, but let's try to stick to the 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes or so.
So, from the point of like blowing out the spending, like that's obvious, the deficit and everything. Everybody can. There's multiple things that go into play there. I will argue that it's a little hard to reduce spending when even a simple bill that's like a stimulus bill for people whose businesses were shut down have to include millions of dollars to renovate some opera house or something along those lines. And then when they do come out with bills that are just get the payments out, get this funded, those won't even be voted on because we can't vote on those simple things. But in terms of just the economy, I would agree with kind of a smaller federal government. We don't have to have all the money going towards all of these different things. It should be more on the local level. Things should be decided more on the local level. There was one point, but it went too long that Chloe had said, so I kind of forgot what that was. But I will say that in terms of balanced budget, that's not a strong suit for Trump right now. It wasn't a strong suit for Obama either, and Biden was part of that administration, and libertarians are here, so we understand what they think.
So if you're interested in more conversation on budgets, that's definitely in the chat there, so definitely check that out on the stream. There's definitely some good conversation going on about budgeting. We are going to move on to the next topic, which was, because I know people are going to jump all over. They're like, oh, well, don't drive on roads, don't forget that kind of stuff. What was the other topic? So I had a good comment from one of our followers here. She is a young female. She says, I don't know about the Libertarian Party, but both the Democratic and Republican Party have known personal and moral issues. As a voter, how do you justify excluding those issues when you make your vote? As a young woman who, I can tell you this will be her first time ever voting if she were to vote right now, those are very important to me as a young woman. So I'll let the Trump supporter address that, because I'd say the probably most Trump and Biden are probably our two immoral people here. From what I know about Jo Jorgensen, she has not got a lot of comments about grabbing people by their privates. So go ahead with the Trump side of that.
So what I would say to that is that the way that the government's set up, you have the three branches of government. You have the judicial, the legislative, the executive. We weren't supposed to have this much power in the executive branch. It wasn't supposed to be that you vote for the president and that's going against your morals because of their stance on this thing or the other. It's not Trump that writes the law for different moral topics. It's the legislative branch that writes the law, votes on it. It's Trump that would sign it, and it's the judicial branch that would say if they need to review it whether or not it goes against the Constitution. So, from a moral perspective, those things really should be handled more at the local level, more at a state by state level. I'd say that using what happened with coronavirus and Trump showing, even at a time where he could have taken a more, this is what we're going to do from the federal level, but instead gave states the supplies they needed and then let them decide for themselves, that that's something that you could use to support voting for Trump, is that it's not him that's going to be making the say on those moral decisions. It's the legislative branch that would be writing the laws. And that's why it's more important to look at what your senator, what your man or woman is going to be doing there, rather than focusing on the president and saying the president is the end all be all for any of this, because that's never the way it was supposed to be.
I think that's a valid, it's actually a very good point. Also, I do understand, and I think that, you know, the young lady here should understand that, like, voting for Trump or Biden or Jo Jorgensen, you are voting more for the party's way of doing things. So I don't know what moral issues she's specifically talking about, but I know, like, a real hot button topic every year is abortion, and why that has anything to do with politics, I'll never really understand. But it's pretty well known that, like, if you're on the Republican side of things, your opinion is more pro-choice, and if you're on the pro-life, and if you're on the Democratic side of things, your opinion is more pro-choice. And so it doesn't matter how much the president or the guy running or the girl running for president stands up and says, I'm pro-choice, I'm pro-choice. If she's running on the Republican side of things, people feel like she's not. So would you argue that that's a letting facts go against your feelings type of thing, and that, like, somebody like Donald Trump is like, hey, regardless of whether I'm pro-choice or pro-life, that's not my decision, and that's kind of the leadership he's shown? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because using abortion specifically, like, if Roe v. Wade is overturned, it goes down to the states. There's already states that have laws in the books making abortion illegal or making aspects of it illegal. He's not the one that would write the law for it. It's the legislative branch that does it. In terms of morals and what happens to you in your day-to-day, you really, really need to be doing more research on the people you're electing to Congress and not focusing on the president. The executive branch is supposed to enforce the laws on the book, and they deal with foreign policy. So I don't view the moral side of it when I'm doing that vote for the president, because that's not the responsibility of that job. You may want to do that, and, like, you want to have a president that can enact with their pen as opposed to letting it go through legislation, but that's not something that I believe in. I think Steven is actually even on my side there. But yeah, what I would say to a first-time voter, look at the people running for Congress. Look at your local level as well. People don't pay enough attention to local politics. That is going to impact you as well. You really need to study up on that too.
That's a very good recommendation to anybody out there, is you're not just voting for a president right now. You're voting for so many other things, not even just especially on your local levels. You guys are talking about here locally and where we live, we're talking about casinos in Nebraska, and people are very confused on that whole concept. Like, do some real research on everything you're voting on. Don't just walk in there and go, well, I'm voting an R, and then go down that list. Again, let's try to keep it about 2.5 minutes or so. Chloe, on Biden's side there.
So before I get into that, I really want to tack on to the most important thing you can vote for on a ballot is judges. Absolutely the most important thing. Really do research on judges. But at any rate, so when you look at, so I actually think that there is a level of morals that do play into a vote, but it's not quite as in depth as I think a lot of people try and make it out to be. So like I said, I look at voting as a utilitarian calculation. I look at this as voting's a zero-sum game. Like there's no other way to go beyond that. It is a zero-sum game by its very definition. There can only be one winner, and there is like there is an outcome there. So when you look at like the moral argument and kind of all that stuff, I actually think there's a lot of problems with Biden that I would morally disagree with him on. I don't think a lot of people can sit here and straight face defend Biden and say, well, I think morally he's a great person. I don't think anyone's going to sit here and say that. But I think the question is, from this level of calculation, and I'm really sorry to say this, Stephen, I don't foresee a Libertarian or Green Party winning under the Electoral College. I just don't. It's a math problem, and it just doesn't play out. I have ideas for how Libertarians should execute this, and I really want you to do this because it would really help the Democrats. But I look at it as, so we're basically, the moral choice here for the president is between Biden and Trump. And we know where the moral line for Trump is. It's been explained. We can get into it if we really want to. And we know a lot of the moral line around Biden. But the moral decision here comes down to which one are you, it's not like I said, it's not a personal endorsement of this candidate. It's not like I'm going to go spend the rest of my life.
Let me pause you real quick there. So you said that earlier, and that was really good. And somebody put something in the chat earlier that was, I think they were going more towards a Trump thing, but it's actually a really good comment, is that you're not writing a Valentine to this person that you're voting for.
Right.
And I think that's a really good thing to remember. So definitely stick with what Chloe's saying there on, it's not somebody you want to go out to eat dinner with. It's not that level of
right. And I think the thing is we've seen a lot of the problems here, and I'm looking at this from even more so than the moral perspective, but there is a signal that when you are voting for this person, in a two-party system, if you're voting for one person over another person, and it kind of boils down to some moral decision here, it's you're saying morally this person is better off than the other one, or you're making some sort of stupid accelerationist take, and there's a lot of problems with that too.
Perfect. And Stephen, you've not had as much going on that stuff because the other two quite have their morals are very out in the open for everybody to know that. Mm-hmm. If you were asking me as an undecided voter, neither one of them is a good person. I hate to hear people say, I'm going to make a vote for the lesser of two evils. Because and a little background on myself, I'm a Bible-believing Christian, and I'm not a perfect person by any means. But I have a very difficult time convincing myself to choose an evil, which is one thing that has led me to even consider a libertarian vote and to even learn who Joe Jorgensen is, because it's difficult for me to go, well, Trump is bad and Joe Biden's bad. And which one of these bad guys do I think is less bad, when from a moral standpoint, there's no such thing as less bad. There is just bad and just good. How do you view, or how do you see, or what do you know about Joe Jorgensen on that stuff?
Well, I mean, and to go off what you said, like The Witcher said, a greater evil, a lesser evil, evil is evil. If I have to choose between the lesser of two, I choose to choose none. And something that Chloe said that really irks me is, and she kept harping on it, the two-party system. And she's telling, the people listening, well, you have to vote the two-party system. The libertarians don't have a chance. And that's a problem I see with both parties. Look at the racial issue. You have Biden telling, black voters if they don't vote for him, then they ain't black. You have recently the comedian who was the ex-girlfriend of 50 Cent on national TV saying that she had to call 50 Cent to remind him that he's a black man and that he can't vote for Trump. You have this power hold from these two parties and they know they have their hooks in you as voters, and they know that no matter what their moral issues are, you're going to vote for them because they made the other party the boogeyman. And maybe this year libertarians don't have a chance, but if you are a first-time voter, morally, Jo Jorgensen's perfect. She has no faults. She gave up a career to pursue motherhood, which is a very respectful thing. And then when her children were older, she went back into a career. She made a personal choice. And as a libertarian, you can know that with any party, you don't have to agree with every single thing, like abortion. There are Republicans I know who support abortion. There are Democrats who I know who don't support abortion. In the Libertarian Party, our biggest principle, the number one thing that you have to agree with to be a libertarian, is personal choice. That is not your body. It is not your choice. If she wants to get an abortion, that's her choice. Now, there is a certain argument in the Libertarian Party about abortion that's kind of come up lately, which is, at what point is the fetus considered a person itself, and thus abortion would be infringing on their personal rights to life and liberty. And that's a debate we're having right now in our party. But Jo Jorgensen in the party as now stands that we support abortion because that is your right to do with your body. And a vote for libertarianism as a first-time voter, as somebody who's new to the political system, you're taking a step away from the duopoly of the Republicans and Democrats, and you're pushing for future generations to have a choice in what they want to do. So
I think that's very well stated. The one thing I would say is I personally have this feeling, and it's echoed by a lot of people. Nobody who wants to be the president is a good person. If you're in politics, you're not a good person, and I mean that on I would put up one of those. It's not, I don't know what the guy's name is, but I would put the sign up that says this is this and prove me wrong. I would tell you every single politician is bad. Prove me wrong.
Crowder.
And, yeah, Crowder. There you go.
God, fucking
and Jo
Crowder.
Jorgensen's probably by far the feather with the two bricks on the other side of the weight scale here, as far as people go. And I totally get what you're saying. I just don't want anybody to ever listen to this and go, "Oh, well, she must have been this perfect person. How did she?" I mean, we're all humans, right? We're all bad people.
Yeah.
I do want to kind of wrap this up a little bit, so I'll give everybody a quick closing statement because we're well over the hour point here. And I'm pretty sure Nathan's my iPad is dying here, so I'm gonna let him start real quick just in case we lose him. But just as kind of a closing statement, and I really appreciate all three of you and everything, and people in the chat have been really awesome about just applauding all of you on your level of professionalism and just the clear cut information that you've been giving. So really, that's really awesome. This has been a great discussion. So I'll let kind of Nathan close with his first, and what I would like you each to do is kind of speak to me as the person that has not decided to vote yet, and I'm going to go out and vote on Tuesday because I am, and convince me to vote for Trump, convince me to vote for Biden, convince me to vote for Jorgensen. Go ahead, Nathan.
So we all discussed COVID-19. I mean, we're all living in that reality right now, and that's something that nobody saw coming. Every country around the world is hurting with COVID-19 right now. But taking a step back and just kind of looking at where we were before all of this happened, with historic economies, historic unemployment, we've got these peace deals going on now, the increased spending with NATO. He's covered foreign policy. He's covered economy. We've got all these different things going for us, and we are not the party that's trying to change the establishment norm. We're not the party that's trying to say let's end the filibusters so that with a 51 vote in the Senate, we can add 2 additional states, get 4 additional Democrat senators, so that they have that in their favor, and then start packing the courts and making a judicial branch just completely irrelevant. We've had 9 justices for, I think it's 150 years or so, because 150 years ago they set a number based to have it be like, this is what it's going to be, this is where it's going to be set at. And now they want to go and change that again, even though FDR tried to change it with a Democrat majority and a Democrat House or whatever, and they wouldn't even let him do that. Obviously, Joe is trying to play it easy and say that, well, you'll find out what my stance on it after the election. But to me, morally, I can't follow a candidate that's not able to say, are you going to destroy the institutions that we have on hand? And I understand the libertarians. I agree with the libertarians. And I really, really do sympathize with you. But I mean, look how divided and look how violent this country is, with a current president who was elected with a 49% popular vote. and think about how much worse it would be if we had a president that was elected with a 34 or 35% vote. At that point, you would have a overwhelming majority of the country that didn't vote.
So just to interrupt you real quick. So the nine judges thing, how long we've had them there.
Yeah.
The reason there are 9 judges is there are 9 circuits. So the
There's
amount of
9 what?
states that we've had has really changed. So I could argue that 100 years ago things were a thing, so we should probably add or take it away because 100 years later things are different.
Well,
But
there's a difference. There's a difference between saying that we're doing this because this is a system that we're setting up, and we're doing this because we don't like that more of the judges have been placed by the other side. So we're just going to add a bunch more judges in to get it swung in our favor. That is completely destroying the whole reason of that judicial branch. They're not there to make laws. They're there to look at the laws written by the legislation and determine whether or not they're part of the Constitution. But yeah, so you have the one party that is destroying things at an institutional level. I've obviously addressed that, no, I don't like Trump's Twitter. There are definitely personality things, but if you look at what he's actually done, go to his website, look at his accomplishments, look at the promises he's made, the promises he's kept, and then in terms of third party, the point that I was getting at is just that while I understand that they're there and I understand that people would want to vote for them as opposed to voting for Trump or Biden, if we get to the place where we have presidents that are elected with 34 or 35% of the population, I don't, like Chloe said, I don't even know if they'd be able to get an electoral college win. I don't know how much more divisive this country can get. And so that's why I switched from libertarian to voting Republican.
Very good. Thank you.
And my battery legitimately might die. I just want to say, Chloe, Steven, it's been great speaking with you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Chloe, go ahead.
So, I think the first thing I want to say here is, as far as, people are like, well, Democrats want to add more states, they want to add more stuff, and I think it's really important to point out in that conversation that we have almost 4 million American citizens, actual tax-paying American citizens, who don't have federal representation. So I think that, you look at the Democratic Party platform and Joe Biden, and we're saying we want to give a voice to 4 million people who actually legitimately do not have a voice. And that's huge. That's absolutely a massive thing, and I think that's a really good thing. As far as the judges go, you're right, Biden hasn't said anything. I don't think he said anything on that for political reasons, but if you look back, the last time we upgraded the Supreme Court was 150 years ago. We only had 37 states. If we're going to do it based on states, we would look at it as right now you would be up to 12 judges, and you would add additional one for a tiebreaker, so 13 judges, and I think that's pretty fair. Even if we added...
Real quick, just to kind of voice this into, would you, honest to God, would you be arguing this if Trump had not just got...
Oh, absolutely.
I can't remember what her name is now.
Absolutely. The
So
number of...
You're 100% on, we should have raised judges 10 years ago when Bush was the president.
Yep, the number of judges on the Supreme Court should be reflective of the number of states in the union.
Why do you believe that?
For a number of reasons. Doing it off population is a really, really, really difficult thing because you could see large population influxes. American population is in kind of a weird situation right now where we actually gain more immigrants than... we're actually on par with immigrant gains and naturalized citizens, being born and stuff. It's just really hard to base that off of a population standpoint, where right now our current government is set up to be based off states, and I think that, kind of continuing that trend until something something different can be put into place is probably the best and most fair way to do it.
Okay, and me asking why is probably we could have another hour-long conversation.
Oh yeah. And the whole Supreme
So,
Court thing
go ahead.
is really complicated. But as far as I think that's, the big fear a lot of people have is that, it would be eroding stuff. But like I said, I look at voting as a utilitarian calculation. Unfortunately, I don't see a third party being able to be viable in electoral college for basically math. If you have even, say, 5% of the popular vote for the libertarians, that 5% is spread out across all 50 states. How is that going to get boiled down as far as... because we elected based on electors, so I look at that. If I were to vote third party, I would probably be most aligned with the Green Party, but again, the Green Party's in a really weird state, and oh my god. But like, I don't think the Green Party really knows enough about what they're doing. But looking at it, there's tons of other like videos I could cite on why Trump just hasn't done a good job. I think the biggest thing that I want to cite, though, is the amount of divisiveness that has sparked within the past 4 years is absolutely insane. I don't see 4 more years of Trump calming that down at all. I see it making things worse. We're seeing massive civil unrest. Like, the only way I can see this happening is to kind of push back into a more like basically established president like candidate like Biden, and kind of like temper things down a little bit. So
The civil unrest is in Democrat-run places.
well, most large cities tend to be for a very
And
large.
Steven knows this personally, right?
Well, so
Yeah,
so
as a Portland native, I will agree that it is primarily the Democrats who are the ones that are being the most divisive.
well, so there's a lot of reasons for this, but cities tend to be Democrat-run for a lot of really complicated socioeconomic factors. You tend to have more educated people living in a city because that's where like jobs with required degrees are. Like, and I'm
real
not.
quick. Can I just say that you insinuated that more educated people vote one certain way?
Yes, absolutely.
That the
This
people
is
that vote the other way are less educated and
Yes.
therefore less entitled
nope,
to their vote.
nope. That's not what I'm saying at all.
I
I'm
want
not.
to be real clear because the way that came across was not a good like in convincing me to vote your way. That statement, because I would not be considered a college educated person. So you're just basically telling me I have to like that. I want to be real clear on that.
No, and I'm not
I
saying
want
that.
to sound
I'm not.
offensive to anybody.
I'm not saying that like if you're not educated you can't vote this way or whatever. I'm not saying that at all. I am saying that we do see a large trend toward education level and towards different political ideologies. And that's just a data thing. That's just data. That's no bias, nothing. That's just data.
Okay, I just want to be clear on that because I don't want anybody being offended. Like, oh well, you're uneducated, so you vote Republican.
No.
I'm going to be honest with you. Anybody who's ever been the president definitely had a college degree and was educated, and there's been a lot of Republicans of those. So,
Well,
okay,
yeah,
very
and I'm
good.
not.
I just want to be.
Yeah, I don't want people
I
to
just want
think
to
that.
not offend anybody in the show.
Yeah, it's just that's just statistically that's just how things tend to work out. So while yes, there's a lot of civil unrest in democratic cities, almost every major city is democratically run. That's just a common factor. Like if you were to really,
it almost leads me to believe that like less educated people tend to not cause as much unrest.
not
They live in rural areas. Like, is it just putting a bunch of
necessarily.
human beings in one place causes problems?
It depends on what your definition of unrest is, and I feel like this is probably getting out to like
Yeah,
another
absolutely,
tangent.
because we could go all the way down the George Floyd rabbit and everything else. So yeah, I'll rein that back into definitely. I get what you're saying.
But yeah, the fact is people say
Real quick.
democratic cities, and really, almost every city is democratic run. It just happens to be like it's like if you really get down by the numbers, there are more Democrats in the country than there are Republicans. Like it's just a numbers thing.
Okay, and real quick before I go to Stephen, because it was a good question asked specifically to you, Chloe. Since you're saying yeah, we should definitely go to like say 13 Supreme Court justices. Let's make that happen today, according to this person, and Trump appoints the next 4 because he's the president.
So here's what I would say is, in addition to adding the seats, we also need to change how we are appointing justices. Like we should not have a single justice that doesn't pass through the Senate without a supermajority.
Would you also say that that should not be a lifetime job?
Yes, it's a 9-year term. You get 2 terms.
The Democrats are the one that ended the filibuster for the judges. So it's your party that did that.
Well,
That's the reason that we have 51 votes still to get
I-
that.
Okay,
And-
so let's see.
I may be registered a
Okay.
Democrat, but I'm not a Democrat.
Yeah, that's
Okay, okay.
Divided vote. She's not a Democrat. Go ahead, Stephen. You raised your hand, and then you also...
Yeah. So I mean, this is something that drives people into the third party is these kind of arguments, And as somebody on the outside of the spectrum, I can definitely see that this is the Democrats having a tantrum. If they didn't want 11 or 13 justices, why didn't they do that during Obama's 8 years? Why are they only doing it now after they don't have the ability to do it when they're throwing a tantrum? And that's all it looks like.
So I want to
I can see your point there.
I want to throw something out here that a lot of people don't understand. Is that when you have a president in office, your president is kind of stuck on a lot of things unless the same party is also in the Senate and the House. So like if you don't
Like
have
the first 2 years of the Obama administration, where you had a supermajority
oh
in
yeah,
Congress,
yep,
and
no,
you didn't get the
absolutely.
stuff done you want to get done.
And I will criticize Obama every time for that. But another big thing that people are upset about is healthcare, and they're like, "Well, Republicans want to redo healthcare." They had 2 years under Trump to do healthcare, and they didn't do it.
Yeah, and we didn't touch healthcare, which we're way out of time on that.
But
okay, so your turn, Stephen. Go ahead and convince me to vote Joe Jorgensen. Why is my vote not wasted?
All right, Ken. Let's just talk man to man. You have a cigar, I have a cigar. You've been drinking, I've been drinking, and we've heard both their views. We've heard both of them tell you that the libertarians don't stand a chance, that you're just wasting your vote. They're telling you exactly what you, as a free person, can do. They're saying that if you do this, it's a waste. You've heard the Democratic representatives say that only educated people vote Democrat. And as somebody who is in Portland, who was here when Trump won, I was in a community college when Trump won, and everyone was walking around like a school shooting had happened. I actually had class interrupted where we had to spend 20 minutes talking about our feelings because Trump won in a college that I paid for to get an education. So how did it get to this point in the past, 245 years of this great nation, that people are so terrified of who's going to be president that you have, people destroying people's property because they don't agree with their opinion? Portland, not a shock to the world, votes primarily Democrat. The entire city of Portland is a Democratic voting city. So, so when Trump won and you had all these people protesting downtown and destroying property and blocking traffic, they weren't blocking Trump supporters. They were blocking the same people who voted with them, and they were just having a temper tantrum. And, and this is the fear mongering that both of these parties do. And so as person to person, think of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, man. Be excellent to each other. And that's it. That's what the Libertarian Party stands on. If you, sir, want to, do peyote and shoot machine guns in the woods, that is your personal freedom. Like me personally, I don't agree. Like abortion's a big topic for some people, right? I don't support abortion when it comes to like, hey, I was sleeping around, we weren't wearing protection, and I got pregnant. I don't want this responsibility. But as a libertarian, it's not my place to tell you can't have that abortion. That is your personal choice. As long as what you do doesn't hurt me, doesn't hurt your neighbor, doesn't hurt anyone else but yourself, that's your personal choice. And people bring up, the drug issue. Some people are like, libertarians just want to do drugs and shoot machine guns. And, drugs are dangerous. Don't get me wrong. We do want to legalize all drugs because the war on drugs has failed. The war on drugs from, Biden, who did the 3-strike, program, who him and Kamala Harris have put more people in prison than should have been put in prison for small possession charges. And here we have, Obama's kids who were smoking weed. We have Biden's son who's doing crack on these new videos coming out. And these people aren't going to prison. And this is more of a, rules for you, but not for me. So at the end of the day, man, the libertarians just want freedom for all. It's not, we're not pandering to certain parties like, Black Lives Matter or, any right-wing parties. We are saying, screw race, screw religion, screw all that stuff. We are going to the most direct attribute, which is the personal level. We're not going to cater to a group. We are saying every single person in this nation should have the same rights as the person next to them.
All right. Well, that's very well stated as well. I think you all three did a very, very clear, good job of explaining your points, of describing your sides of things. I think it's actually kind of interesting that if I were to as somebody who's not biased into any of this, right? It almost seems like you guys would all vote for the right person that's the same person, which is kind of interesting. You had some very good points there. I would point out to anybody watching that the third party vote, it's explained pretty well that it's kind of hindered by the electoral college, and that's it seems to me like even the people here all agree that's a problem. If the 5% population vote goes to the third party, they do get funding and representation in the following election. So your vote for third party is not a lost vote. That's one of the things that kills me is anybody telling somebody else, oh, your vote for this means that your vote is against this or for that. No, your vote for somebody, even if you put in Mickey Mouse, is that your voice being heard against everything else. And especially voting for like third party, green party, whatever. If you could get them 5%, they'd get more representation. And maybe you're making a vote for the future because you can't choose a lesser evil. And I get that too. I can honestly say you guys all three gave me as a person undecided a lot to really, really think about. And so I super appreciate all three of you being on the show. I think we could have 5 more shows on just healthcare, just civil unrest, all of that. I really, really enjoyed it. So I definitely invite both of you, Chloe and Stephen, to any other shows you guys would like to be a part of. We do this a couple times a month live, and then we do a bunch of other shows all the time. So I really, really appreciate you guys being on. Thank you so much. If you guys feel free to share this to any other groups, just tag us so that we can definitely, converse with them and follow up with them. And, you guys have anything to say to each other or anything like that before we go?
I just want to say I felt both people were being very respectful. There were no personal attacks, and this is what politics should be. It shouldn't be, I'm wearing red, he's wearing blue, she's wearing yellow. Attack them. This isn't Halo. This isn't Team Deathmatch. We are all on the same ship. We just disagree on how we're going to get to that destination.
Very good.
So yeah,
I agree. There shouldn't be any personal attacks. Obviously, Chloe, we're all for her being here and being a part of this conversation. And Steven, we agree on so much, and it would be so much more efficient if you guys would just bring those views to the Republican Party, because we have very similar views. We just don't have enough people pushing to get it done. So don't waste your vote there. Just bring it here and then get us to change. I'm saying waste and get us to change to what we really need to be.
Listen,
I hate the W word.
If the Republican Party will join me in my plans for a full-on workers' revolution, I will gladly accept their help.
Happening. That's not happening.
All right, well, thank you guys very much. Get our outro and take us out. Again, great conversation, and thank you so much for being with us. You guys have a great night, and keep on drinking and keep on talking.
Yeah.
Hey, Wu-Tang is forever.
Hey,
Forever.
and just so we know, 4 years of malarkey.
Hard pass.
Thanks, guys. Good night.
Yeah, so Steven, the best thing for the libertarians is totally infiltrate the Republican Party, take half of them away. You'll get your 5% minimum easy.
Hey guys, seriously, that was awesome. We had some great conversations today. Really good questions. I wish we had 2 more hours on this.
Yeah.
Funny enough, the iPad is actually charging faster than it's dying finally.
We plugged it in.
So, well, we had it plugged in for the last 20-ish minutes, and it just kept going down. I turned my screen brightness all the way down, and it was still going down, but it's finally caught up. So I went from 2% to 4%. It was at 2% when I started my final thing to say.
Yeah, no, that's.
I really think that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I had a really enjoyable experience. I would love to be on future podcasts. I love talking about stuff.
Good. You're welcome to call in anytime. If you ever come into town, you're welcome to.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I really am more of a libertarian supporter. I felt bad having to trash you so much, but I mean, it is a debate after all.
It's no big deal.
Our whole podcast about Gary Johnson last time.
So it legitimately, I voted Gary Johnson last time. The only reason that I changed is just because of these things so we didn't really get a chance to talk about that, but
I will be doing a postmortem after this, so if you want to stick around for that, I've got a few thoughts and stuff, but yeah.
That is a very interesting point. I honestly don't understand why we have to have Puerto Rico as a territory. Why do we have to control them? Why can't they just kind of be their own country? Mm-hmm. And then for Washington, D.C., the whole point of that was to have a district that was not under a state for the federal government.
Well, but there was also no goals for people to live there, and right now there's it's almost bigger than Omaha.
So can we have the people, like the actual people that live there, be annexed by the states around it, and then have the federal district where it's just the government be separate, and then we don't have to add Puerto Rico and we don't have to add Washington D.C. I don't think Washington D.C. should be a state.
I don't know. Like, I'll be honest, I'm not as well read up on that. I will say though, I want to say the reason that Puerto Rico there's a reason that we have Puerto Rico as a territory. I don't remember the exact reason, but I do know that is something that's over 3 million people.
Yeah. And I
is it the proximity to Cuba?
Too.
Okay, so my girlfriend's saying it's proximity to Cuba.
So since we don't have the foreign relations issues with Cuba as bad as they were back then, would you support just them no longer being a territory and being their own country?
It's still a I mean, they see themselves as Americans. They don't see themselves as Puerto Ricans. They see themselves as or no more than like I would consider myself like a Midwesterner. Like it's very something where they are like ostensibly American. And there's like a lot of really weird reasons for it. But like, I want to say they came to us, didn't they?
Well, the other interesting thing too is I don't know which way Guam would vote, like if they lean more Republican or Democrat. But the Democrats who are saying like let's add Washington D.C. and Puerto Rico, they don't mention. I think it's looping from your audio. But they don't say anything about like let's add Guam as a state as well. If Guam does lean Republican, and we add Puerto Rico and Guam at the same time, you get 2 more Republican senators, 2 more Democrat senators, and then Washington D.C. was never supposed to be a state. So that's how they always added states in the past. Was they added 2 at a time so that were 2 at a time that you would see go in the other direction, so that you couldn't just with a majority add in additional states to get yourself additional senators.
I don't quite think that's true.
And on the topic of the Supreme Court justices, I don't see the point in adding more as long as there's an odd number. Like whether you get 9 or 13.
I kind of agree with that. Like ultimately, it's just one panel of people talking about one specific case. So unless we were overwhelmed with cases, why can't 3 people handle it? Or 7, or the 9 that we currently have.
It's not like splitting up into teams. It's all going to the Supreme Court. Like, all 9 of them are still voting on it. So whether it's 9 or 13 or 11, it's very clear the Democrats are upset that Trump elected somebody, and now they're all of a sudden talking about term limits for Supreme Court justices, which is not in the Constitution.
I will say that
we can't change it. Changing the Constitution takes something that's a damn near act of God.
So the thing is the reason why.
I know it's difficult on spouses and significant others. So somebody to come on a Sunday night and do all this stuff. So definitely I don't know if you're married or not, Stephen, but I know you got kids. And I thought I saw a lady walking around back there.
Yeah, that's my Viet Cong wife, and I have my fuck trophy over there watching some cartoons right now.
And Chloe, let Mary know. Super appreciate you giving us your time.
I'm excited because we're making like Cajun shrimp Alfredo. Yeah, Cajun shrimp Alfredo for dinner. So I'm super excited for that.
That sounds actually really good.
Yeah.
I'm having Domino's
Guess you guys
pizza
should have
and
been over
wings.
here for this. So, gee, I could get some Cajun Alfredo.
But like, yeah, as far as the judges thing, I think the reason why people are so mad about it is because like back when Obama, or what's his name? Is it Scalia?
Merrick Garland. I do agree with you on this. I thought it was complete crap. The Republicans didn't even have the hearing.
Yeah.
I know the vote wasn't going to go in his direction, but do the freaking hearing. And then
Right.
obviously 4 years later, it turns around and we are straight up hypocrites.
Yep.
Well, and like the thing is we're literally in an election. Like when all of this started, people were actively voting, and it's like
They shot themselves in the foot.
Oh,
to be
absolutely.
To be
Oh,
fair,
yeah.
actively voting shouldn't have been done. Voting day is Tuesday. Unless you're out of the country, you shouldn't be voting early.
oh shit, you know what I forgot
Campaigns
to
aren't
mention?
done.
You know what I forgot to mention?
What?
On the podcast, anyone who doesn't vote doesn't get to have sex.
Oh.
Forgot that. But no, like,
Well, I got a Cowboys game that's starting right now, so I'm gonna let you guys go.
okay,
All right, bud.
Later, guys.
see ya.
Nights again. Thank you both. And don't hate me too much for supporting Trump.
No, I will say though, I would love to come on sometime and red pill your audience into socialism. I can.
Boy,
I can.
we got a tough audience for that.
Hey,
Listen. I can make anyone agree that socialism is the way to go.
if you do that, bring me on. I'm playing defense.
Challenge accepted. What you guys on for a full-on socialist episode? I love it.
I'll just sit back and drink.
I mean, I would just want to say, like, here's kind of, because there's a lot of, I would want to say what I advocate for first, so that way you can kind of see, because I feel like socialism is a really, really bad rep, because everyone's like, oh, well, look at Russia and look at China, they're socialism, and I'm like, well, you don't know what I advocate for, and so without knowing what I advocate for, how can you relate what I'm saying to what those were? But
Yeah, but that's like saying,
John-
There's a difference
like,
between socialist and communist.
that's like saying, hey,
John-
yeah, the tiger bit my hand off
Yeah.
the first 2 times I pet it, but maybe this
John
third
Stossel.
Well, I
actually
mean-
has a-
I gotta go. I'm getting to my set. I gotta go.
I actually, if
John
it were up to
Stossel
me,
actually has a great video on the socialism where he's talking about socialism in Sweden or one of those states where it's not the straight up socialism that people think. Like it's a capitalist economy, and then they use the money from that to fund social programs. And he goes into a lot of different things. I'm sure Steve has probably seen that video before. But Chloe, I like give it a watch. Like Google John Stossel. It's on YouTube. It's John Stossel Sweden socialism or something along those lines. There's a full hour-long video, and then there's like a shortened 5-minute that just kind of gives you, So, oh yeah, here we go.
okay, yeah, I see it.
John Stossel, Sweden.
It's not
and
a
it comes
socialist
right up.
success.
Hey, Chris,
Yep.
you should add me
Okay.
as a friend on Facebook so we can
I'll take a
chat
look at it.
Hey Chris, add Steven as a friend on Facebook so they can chat.
But I will also say, if it were up to me, I would want to change the name of what socialism is. I think it gets a bad rep from a lot of stuff.
What's the purpose of that? If you can't stand by the name, if you can't stand by what it is, don't dress it as something else.
Well, no, because a name, a word literally means nothing besides the way we give to it.
But a pill that's bad for you is still a pill that's bad for you if you hide it in peanut butter.
And I could make the argument that like socialism has never actually been done and everything, but it would be a conversation for another time. Like, I know there's some argument of, well, socialism has never actually been done
Hey,
besides
Steven,
for
he
6
said-
months in Russia.
He said
prior to
add
World War
him and he'll
II.
accept it. He's having some issues with his Facebook and he can't
But-
add you.
Wait, I'm talking about you, sir. You, the debater. I want to add you as a friend.
Oh, you want me as a friend?
Yeah,
okay,
dude,
yeah.
you were a super chill dude.
But yeah,
Oh,
no,
sure,
I would,
yeah.
I could.
It'll be easier for you to find me. There's a lot less Stephen Benzes in the world.
There are a lot of Nathan Cunninghams. I actually searched for all of them, and I did a group Facebook message and said hello to all of them.
I bet you're
And-
wondering why I brought us all here. No, a lot of the Stephen Benzes are actually, like, all of us are either military, and there was one that was a gynecologist. Whatever. I don't go to those appointments.
If you Google Nathan Cunningham, there's apparently one of us that's a like Hispanic country singer, and just dominates the images.
All right, well, I gotta get out of here.
Steven
I'll talk to all y'all
Benz,
later.
Magnolia. See you later.
See ya.
Magnolia High School, Texas.
Whoo. All right, hold on. Let me. Woo. All right, shit. That was definitely a thing. I think the big takeaway from this is panel style discussions, debates, whatever you want to call them, are difficult. Especially considering this wasn't necessarily a blood sport style thing, which is definitely where I excel. Like, I want to get into something where it's like a really heated argument and, you know, like questionable personal attacks aren't off the table. I don't think that, you know, like, not to say that it's not good to not have those kind of things. I actually think tonight's discussion was pretty decent. I think it was kind of interesting and kind of weird, but I definitely didn't get the points across that I kind of wanted to get across. And I think that's a really downside to a limited time frame debate like that. I don't know what I know that, like, I'm guessing you probably feel somewhat similar because you watch most of it.
The issue that I ran into across watching a lot of this was actually more that there's a lot of bad faith arguments made. And without there being a way to really rebut directly to someone, because it is a panel style run through a moderator, everything like that. There's not a way to stop something like that in its tracks.
Yeah.
And it makes things so disingenuous across the whole process. I was screaming through chats at Chloe about, like, honestly, I would just be ripping these people just a new asshole. There's so many things that need to get done. It's not going to be a matter of, well, this is what my person said, and your person said this that one time, and so it means this. Saying that more educated people tend to vote along the left is not a controversial topic.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I do not have a college education. I went to college on a near full ride academic scholarship to The Ohio State University. I was immature and I lost that scholarship. Didn't finish. I vote left because I actually understand the issues. The issue isn't going to be, well, this person ran a business, or this person is morally perfect. Fuck that. You know what? If you're morally perfect, let's put your ass on a cross. That's what they did to the last person that they said was morally perfect.
I think it's important, too, that especially when you look at, like, the reason why we tend to not put business people in political spaces is because it doesn't mesh. There's a lot of things you can get away with in a business sense that there's no room for that in politics. And I think it's really important that we kind of, like, draw and see that distinction. Like, there was a lot of stuff that I really wanted to say, but I'm like, I have to bite my tongue. Like, especially when discussing things like libertarianism and all that kind of stuff. I can't go out and be like, well, like, I can't make a talking point. I can't go out and make a point of, like, certain things because it just doesn't work for a number of reasons. And I think that was my biggest issue. I had a ton of fun, I'll be honest. I want to go on, and I do think I can sell them on socialism. I could probably sell most people on socialism.
Well,
but,
and where you're talking about with business people not needing to be in politics, it's because businesses inherently don't work for the workers. So if you have a business person in politics, you have someone that's not working for the people. You have them working for capital interest. Now, Chloe and I are a little bit different. She leans way, way, way harder left than I do, getting into worker cooperatives and things like that. I believe in a true democratic socialism view. I think that we need to do a lot of things as far as, like, eliminating tax loopholes, create a more progressive tax bracket. Let's get back to where we have, a top marginal tax rate of 90%. Let's eliminate, like, health insurance, things like that, and go to a full single-payer system. I don't think that all businesses should be owned by the workers or anything like that. I'm more of the mindset that let's work everybody in the whole framework of a system that lifts all people, because it's not amoral or immoral to be rich. Would I want to be rich? Fuck yes, I want to be rich.
Yeah.
But the system as we have now, under, honestly, the United States has been pretty conservative, very Republican for a very long time. It's focused everything to the capital side of interest. Going libertarian, you're going to go even farther that direction. Honestly, establishment Democrat, you're sitting basically where we are right now.
Yeah.
But we need to start moving towards a direction of change in the right way.
Yeah.
And the disingenuous arguments of Biden wants to end oil by 2030 or 2035 or something. It's not a number that's going to happen.
Yep.
The thing is, you set a goal, you begin working towards the goal. Goalposts move. It's what it is. If they're going to have this type of discussion, it's whatever. It doesn't mean anything. It's not going to show anything. But
debate is over. Yes. We're just going over last thoughts on it.
Debate is over. I'm going over the things that I'm sitting here screaming at Chloe through, like, private chats.
She wanted a chance to come and, like, say stuff. So I was like, yeah, sure, whatever.
Yeah, so many say things.
But I think the big thing with kind of how I took a lot of it is there's a lot of stuff that I just really I couldn't say out of so I hate civility politics. I fucking hate civility politics. But that was the framework I was operating in, and I had really no other way to get across some of the stuff I wanted to say definitely violated that tenet, and I can't in good faith violate that tenet and then say, oh yeah, I was an honest debater at that point, especially when that's, if this is the framework we've agreed upon. Like, it's really difficult to sit down and do that. Like, I really wanted to say a lot of stuff like Trump has absolutely subverted the rule of law. Again, Legal Eagle did a great video on that. Like, I honestly think voting for Trump is a tacit approval of white nationalism. Like, that's something that, like, even if you don't think that he says that, or you are not okay with that, that is something that there is, to an extent, something that is happening. And I mean, like, we've seen this. He's empowering far right extremist groups, but it's really tough when you're in a debate style setting like that. That's not meant to be internet blood sports. That of keeping track on that. And like I said, she even said too, I don't know if you're comfortable with me saying your name. It's like Amy said too, where it's a panel style debate with a moderator. You don't have a one-on-one dialectic to interchange with. You kind of have to go around. And so there's like a lot of stuff that I really wanted to get across that I can't get across, especially because you have three people all trying to get their points across. And when it's two of you in an hour and a half, it's a bit easier to. But really, that debate, like, if I could have 2 hours with each of them individually with a moderator, I think that would probably lead to a far more productive outcome. Well, no, a debate is about fundamentally convincing the audience. I never go into a debate looking at this and saying, oh, I'm trying to convince people I'm debating with. That's never my intention, because I'm probably not going to be able to convince them. I am going into a debate and I'm saying, okay, how can I change those who are listening and those who are watching? How can I reach out to them? And that's what your goal in a debate should always be. And so that's why when I was trying to make the points I was making, I was trying to make very, very factual, very defensible claims that is, nothing super out there. It's not even convincing them you're winning. It's convincing them that your ideas are better.
So, and the thing with the debate and with trying to win and stuff like that, there is no scoreboard at the end. What you have is the ability to put an idea in somebody's head. That's it. There's no amount of talking for 2 hours, 3 hours, 10 hours that's going to, on that spot, change somebody's mind. What you need to do is create an environment where they want to find out something more.
Yep.
So if you can, if you want the audience, it's.
But again, if I go into like a debate with someone, debate socialism versus capitalism, I'm not there to convince everyone at that very instance that socialism is the ideal way. I'm there to put the thought in their head of maybe they've been looking at socialism wrong, and maybe that's not what they think it is, and maybe they should start looking into it a little bit more. It's basically like if you can open up and sow just a small seed of doubt as far as pre-existing determinations and pre-existing misconceptions, and kind of start to put in more facts and stuff like that. Because I want to say, anything I advocate for, I'm not advocating for because like I'm grifting. Everything I advocate for, I absolutely believe in. I absolutely believe it is the right thing to do. There's levels of morals into it. There's tons of different levels into it. But everything I advocate for is because I actually believe in what I'm advocating for. It's not from any other stance besides I believe it. I'm 100% being honest. I'm being 100% honest with what I say that very moment is what I'm actually thinking. I'm removing as many filters as I can. Besides stuff that's going to get me in trouble.
I'll stand on the other side of that. You have morals, I don't. If anyone's willing to write a big enough check, I will say whatever the fuck you want me to say. And I'm fine with that. And so I will stand there and I'll be your walk-away person as a trans lefty. I'm pretty sure I can sway enough people. If there's 2 comments in the chat, put something in chat. And,
I haven't reviewed a walk-away video. I should do that at some point.
But if you can do 2 comments in a check, I'll say whatever you want me to say.
Yeah, but I mean that's the thing. I think too that And then not to say that there's anything wrong with that. I think that there's,
Oh no,
it's
I'm really
complicated.
fucking around. No.
well, I think it depends on what the thing's being said. I think it's really complicated, but as far as that goes, like,
I'll advocate for pet murder for enough money.
oh no, oh god, no, that's actual harm. The only kind of like pet thing I'll advocate for is giving them all the cuddles because they deserve cuddles. No, they're babies.
Somebody wants to write me a
Inara,
check for $10 million.
come here.
I mean,
See?
I wouldn't actually do anything, but I'll say some shit.
They're babies.
But that's the thing with a lot of people when you see the walkaway movements and you see stuff like that.
Babies.
There is a lot of that ends up being, it's grifter money.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And no, I would not believe anything in a situation like that.
But yeah, I just want to make it clear that when I do advocate for certain things, I am being 100% ingenuous. I am being 100% honest with what I actually believe. I don't say like, oh, I like socialism for some weird clout points, because what clout would I be getting in the first place?
And here's one other quick thing about that, because a lot of misconception about people that are very left and things like that are that you're poor, you don't work, and you just want money from the government. Chloe and I both have good paying full-time jobs.
Mm-hmm.
We have a nice house. We have our own brood of animals here. We don't really want for anything.
No, that all is not to say you fuckers shouldn't subscribe right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Subscribe for more content and
I do political content once a week, and then video games. I've been actually starting playing Dark Souls, so I gotta shill myself. Look, I'm an affiliate now. I gotta shill. You know the game.
But to counter the point of socialists being just wanting money from the government so they don't have to work, we want the best for all people.
Yeah.
There's some people. I am physically disabled. I still work full time without issue. I work full time in pain because I live in a state that will not do medical marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
Norway.
Yeah.
Zeus. Norway, right off the bat. That's pretty easy. Even fucking Canada.
I want to say this. I want to say I would live here. I just want here to be better.
Exactly.
I like America. I like the people. I like a lot of the shit we have. We have a really good society. Like, we have, like, I think America's really cool because we have a lot of, like, different food and everything. And I want to see this country be better. I want to see this country no longer be beholden to the interest of capital owners. Like, I want to see actual people. I want to see.
Okay, so wait, Zeus, what do you describe as socialism?
Like, I want to see things actually get better. Yes, like there's no actual socialist country, I would say, right now.
Yeah, there isn't, and pure socialism probably is something that can't happen. So, the best thing to really look at is a social democracy, where we use the means and the wealth of a nation to lift all people. Is there somebody that's going to become a trillionaire in that country? No. Who the fuck needs enough money that they couldn't spend it in 10,000 lifetimes? Are people going to die of hunger? No.
Yep.
And that's the thing. That's the difference.
Yeah. It's,
But
it's
purely Zeus, I would like to see what you think socialism is, so that we can figure that out.
And I think the big takeaway is like, I don't think anyone wants to live off the government, and that's definitely not what people are saying. People, like, when we say we want socialism, we say we want equality of opportunity. We want the workers to be, or I want the workers to control the means of production, meaning that if you are at a job, I like democracy. Democracy is good. Like, I think that your workplace you should have a say in your workplace. I think, yeah. Also, I want to say that there's not really a huge problem with having billionaires. The problem comes from when those billionaires get their money off of effectively slave labor. like,
So-
and the excess value extracted from those billionaires.
The current, speaking, everybody knows we're talking about Jeff Bezos. The current math is that Jeff Bezos could give $205,000 to every single person working in warehouses and delivery for Amazon right now, and he would still have more money than he did before the pandemic began.
Yeah. Or like he finishes paying Social Security 90 seconds into the year.
Not even 90 seconds.
Oh, is it like 70 something?
No, it's less than a minute.
Yeah.
Well,
So
when you calculate his total net worth.
it's
And with most of his money coming through like capital gains and things like that through stock sales.
Yep.
Because his salary is like $70,000 a year. It's the stock options and stock gains that are taxed at a much lower rate, 15%.
and even then, a lot of these CEO types, they don't actually pay for anything. They put it on the company card and write it off as a business expense. Like that's how a lot of this. That's basically how capitalism works. Like, you know, I disagree with that. That's basically tax evasion. You know, like there's a lot of problems with that, and I think that's what I want to see. I want to see. No, fuck you. I'm not taking that shit. That's tax evasion, and that's something I don't like. I don't think anyone's gonna be like, oh my god, yes. Like, and I think it's really important that we recognize this. But I promise I will do a socialism stream. I don't know when. I gotta kind of look things through. There's a lot of theory streams I want to get down to. We'll see. But at any rate, I think we should start making dinner.
Yeah.
I'm hungry. So with all that, thank you everyone for coming out. I hope all of you had a great day. Yeah. So with that, thanks for coming. Like I said, please give me a follow. And I would love it if you subscribed. But have a great one. And then also, on that level, I will be doing video games this week. I'm gonna try and do Dark Souls one day. I don't know what day. I still gotta figure that out. I'm working on a schedule, and I'm working on getting emotes so you can get some really sweet, awesome emotes for subscribing. So see ya. Bye.